Welcome everybody to episode 90 of the ADV podcast and a very special New Year's Eve edition today.
Yeah, we didn't do a Christmas episode. We can do a New Year's episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds good.
So everyone, I hope you're all having a wonderful time wherever you are, but we've got some very serious topics to cover today to kind of round off the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Happy New Year's to all the people that's already happened for, by the way.
So if you're in
Asia.
Asia, Japan, China, those parts of the world, Happy New Year.
新年快乐.
Exactly. And Happy New Year, I guess it would
in
be.
Japanese.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Yeah, I suppose that's how you translate. Obviously, that's not correct, but whatever.
Right.
Let's move on. We're going to start out, everybody, with what's new, as usual, where we talk about what's new with regards to China. We got a couple of things. Now, the main thing we're going to talk about here today is this footage that's been going on. Now, that's going to be the main section, but we didn't want to keep you guys hanging and not show you that we're going to cover.
It sounds like this. I've been waiting for some real good
No,
treat.
seriously. No, the fact of the matter is this has been going around the internet, and people are obviously concerned as to what's going on here. And we're going to be telling you that this is nothing to be, of course it's something to be concerned about.
Yeah, it's definitely huge.
But it's nothing out of the ordinary. If you've lived in China, you'll know.
I would like to summarize this.
Okay.
Summarize this. So basically, we see a lot of misinformation going on around.
Yeah.
It's pretty much anything that comes out of China. We'll have people that take it either way too seriously and then run telephone game with that stuff. And I understand how that happens.
Yeah.
The lack of transparency in China means that nobody ever knows. Thankfully, we have the language skills and we know the right people to ask when things like this happen. We found exactly what this actually meant. So we'll break it down for you, hopefully better than anywhere else you've seen.
Yeah, so you're going to find out exactly what this footage is all about, that footage. Later
it's something to be concerned about, by the way.
Yes.
It's not, we're not downplaying it, but it's probably not what you think.
No, so we'll get into that a little later. But of course, we got our what's new to get through first. So when that footage goes away,
Yeah, you don't have to play out the whole thing.
I know, but
You can keep
I'll
moving
skip.
on.
Well, okay. What do we skip into here?
Okay, we gotta. Okay.
Well, okay. What's going on there? All right.
So Winnie the Pooh himself is sitting on a throne. This is like Game of Thrones shit.
A dragon throne.
So this is significant because this is the audacity, right? China's always had audacious leaders. Like if you're the chairman of the Communist Party of China, or literally like the dictator of the Communist Party of China, you have a ton of power. There's cult of personality and stuff, but that cult of personality didn't really surround any leader other than Mao and Xi Jinping.
Yes.
Hu Jintao didn't have it. Jiang Zemin certainly didn't have it. They were more like, let's run things quietly. Right. China. Let's make China grow silently. Deng Xiaoping had a following, but not a cult of personality.
Yes.
This is a cult of personality of note.
Oh yeah.
Xi Jinping sitting on a dragon throne is
dragon teacups, by the way.
Dragon teacups. This was something that was being covered on Chinese forums before being deleted, because Chinese people were talking about how is our leader so self-important that he's sitting on a freaking dragon throne, because that has emperor significance in China. And the emperor, what's it called? The kind of emperor figure of China was supposed to be destroyed and deleted from Chinese history when Chairman Mao took place, because that part of Chinese history, that kind of like big figurehead, like looking over all the peasants, right?
Yeah, with all his concubines and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get rid of that stuff because the workers are supposed to rise up in the communist state. So this is... people shouldn't probably read too much into it. At the same time, the fact that it was getting wiped from the internet meant that people were talking about, it's a little bit scary that Xi Jinping's taking on more of an emperor role. And that's the way I see him playing it, too. He doesn't do impromptu interviews like Jiang Zemin used to. He doesn't speak English. He's not worldly. He reads things off of a script.
Yes.
He barely shows up in public, and he is super self-important and overruling.
No shit. He's forcing everyone to learn his Xi Jinping thought.
Yeah.
All the children in school have to learn it. Everybody in the office, in the office, you have to learn it. And if you work for the government, you have to learn it. I just want to say one thing, though.
Yeah.
You know how uncomfortable those crappy, chairs are,
Can we talk about these?
This is the thing. Rich Chinese people,
yes.
One way to show off their wealth is they get these very magnificently sculpted hardwood couches and chairs. And when I say hardwood, I mean there are no cushions. It's wood. Okay? And the furniture, so you'll go to a wealthy person's house, and it's the worst thing in the world, because you'll walk in and it'll be like really, they're in the money if they've got this hardwood furniture.
That.
Like that, right? And you have to sit down on this freaking piece of wood and drink bitter tea.
So
it's not fun.
The richer the person, the hotter the room will be.
And the less comfortable the furniture is going to be.
You'll find more poor people won't care about things like cold ice. They're like, that's fine. Cold beer is fine for them and stuff. Yeah. It's more the rich people that be hyper-focused on like, the tea has to be hot.
Yes.
And the room has to be uncomfortable and the furniture has to be hard as hell.
Yes.
Like I remember my mother-in-law, she had like a bed. It was kind of comfortable by Chinese standards. I was like shocked. So she put down like a bamboo slat to make sure it was super hard. And I'm like, why are you doing this? This is
well,
you know
those bamboo slats, because I also, when I first got to China and in Guangdong specifically, because it's so hot there, what they do to combat the heat actually is they put those bamboo slats on top of a mattress.
Sure.
So you sleep actually on bamboo. It's kind of like, you can imagine it's like rolled up, okay?
Yes.
So it unrolls. So it's like this bamboo slat thing, and it allows the air to circulate.
The ones with the beads on it.
Yeah, that too.
They're actually wooden.
Yeah. But it's actually, you're lying on wood.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
So to go back to the furniture thing, you can measure someone's wealth, like you said, if they have this uncomfortably wooden furniture.
Yeah.
But also by the size of it.
Yes.
If it looks like the big world in Mario, then you know that person's a millionaire.
Sure.
I've been to furniture shops in China where it's like the chair is like you could fit. You know when you go to like a town and it's like the world's largest chair.
Sure.
Pull off an exit 69 or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what you buy to put in your house.
Yeah.
And it has to be so uncomfortable because according to Mao Zedong, by the way, he slept on a wooden slat for a bed, and he said that was good for your back. To this day, even educated Chinese people, mainland Chinese people in the lost generation era, will say, Chairman Mao is right, I prefer to sleep on a wooden slat.
Yeah.
And it was awful, like when I first started dating my wife, right? Her bed was a wooden slat. And I was like, how do you actually deal with this?
Yeah.
You know? It literally, it knocks your bones out of place.
Yeah, it's not fun. Remember they've got to tell the uncle story.
Yeah, go ahead.
So our friend, we went over because they had that furniture.
Yeah.
Richest man in the village or whatever. So he built this mansion, which is not a mansion. It's just like a concrete, it's not fantastic. A couple of floors of concrete building.
Yeah.
With tiles on the floor.
I wish we could explain this properly.
He had the Apple toilets. Like, the toilets with a flush button was the Apple. Yeah, it was an Apple logo, and it said like Apple. Like the.
It was a squat toilet that had the Apple cell phone logo as the flush button.
As the flush button, yeah. Anyway, so this guy's in the money, and he had that wooden furniture. So he had this terrible wooden couch and these wooden chairs.
No AC.
No AC, and it was so hot.
It was in the jungle.
We were dying.
In the jungle.
Yeah. So we actually made a couple videos.
We did. They're on our channel.
Yeah, we got some. Anyway, the fact is, we're sitting in this thing. Beautiful marble floors, by the way. Big marble tiles.
Yeah, it's
so
the echo. Remember the echo in there?
Yeah, very heavy wooden door.
Yeah.
So all wealthy stuff.
Right.
This guy who looked like a peasant, okay?
Well, he was a peasant.
Okay, he was.
He was the uncle that helped out.
He was actually the uncle of the person who we were visiting.
Yeah.
Walks in, doesn't say hello to us, lies down.
What is he wearing?
On the floor,
he's almost naked.
Just crap,
He's wearing like
bad
rolled up camo pants,
yeah.
totally nude elsewhere.
Yeah. And he walks in at the front of the door, the foyer area where you take your shoes off and stuff. Walks in and just lies down kind of on his belly, face on the ground, on the marble floor, and goes to sleep. We were like, I felt like I had to bring him a bowl of water like a dog.
Because he was sweating.
He looked like, when a dog comes to I was like, what's going on with this guy? I couldn't believe it.
He was apparently, because it was hot, and he was coming in from laboring or whatever, and he wanted the cold marble on his
just having
skin.
his like noon nap.
Right.
But like, we're all sitting there chatting, talking, having a couple drinks, and this guy walks in, doesn't say hi, lies down, goes to sleep, sleeps for about 2 hours, gets up, and then goes. And we're like, what the hell's going on here?
Anyway,
it was quite an experience. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, it was so hot. Holy
wow.
shit.
Yeah, how we managed to sleep, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on from the hard wooden furniture. I think we've spoken about it a bit too much.
That's a good little insight.
Yeah, and it looks amazing. Okay, what's going on with this one? Okay.
Well, we remember John T.
Yeah.
I'm the fastest man in the world.
Yeah, nobody can stop me.
So apparently, he's a superhero.
Yeah, cool. Again, we're just showing you a couple of memes from our subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/ADVChina.
I love this. For those of you listening in your car on the way to work or whatever, there's a very famous picture of Mao towards the end. it was during an interview or something.
Yeah.
And he was kind of not on his deathbed, but he was not all there. But he was still ruling China.
No. Yeah.
And he just looks like he's slobbing out, laying back like a zombie. And the meme says, "Oh, hell nah. Chairman Mao took 40 Benadryls."
Yeah.
I love
Excellent.
that.
Yeah.
I love that one. That was a good one.
So we were talking about how we constantly see this news about China's fantastic infrastructure all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in reality, the way it's all put together is it's usually put together very well to look very good for a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay. But actually, the quality control and the way that things are supervised, a lot of shortcuts are taken. And we found this fantastic clip, which actually just illustrates that very well.
This is something you would see around China. When we saw this, we're like, that's so China.
Yeah. So
it's so creepy.
it's basically a water pipe breaking through the sidewalk.
Spraying an e-bike.
Yeah, and just coming out of it. Yeah.
It's so
It is.
China, though.
It
Like,
is.
you see that kind of stuff all the time, and you actually put on blinders because, I don't know, there's two reasons we've talked about. One is, go back to this.
Yeah,
so
I'll
people
go
have
back
some
to it.
reference. We'll play that again.
Yeah.
Just play it again from the top.
From Chairman Mao's 40 Benadryls.
Yes.
Okay.
So you put on your blinders to this kind of stuff because you don't want to feel like you don't want to complain about it to anyone because people will be like, well, then go home.
Yeah.
And then leave if you don't like it, right?
Sure,
Number two, you also don't want to realize that you've downgraded so much for your standard of life that you came from, which is fine. Adventures are fun. I've been all around the world. But when you live in a city center, in a nice city center, and this is what happens, like on the road, you try to ignore it because you feel like you make excuses for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to.
Well, I
put
mean,
that
look,
into words.
even I've got videos on my channel where I used to live in the downtown area of Shenzhen, in like right next to the Mixed City Mall, the Mixed City Mall, on Xi'an,
Yeah.
which is the glitziest, most glamorous part of the city. Well, it was at one point. That's kind of moved to the
It always
CBD.
moves. That's China.
Yeah, exactly.
It always moves
to the Futian CBD. But back then it was. And in the middle of the night, they're tearing the pavements up to fix this kind of problem because it exists all over China. It's very bad, the infrastructure, really.
Actually, glad you brought that up. What you guys have to understand is, like, if you have like Manhattan's still the best, like, nicest, swankiest part of New York City. It's been that way for how many hundreds of years, right?
Yeah, very long time.
In China, like, if you use Shenzhen is a good example, so is Huizhou, where I used to live. The city center where I bought an apartment was traditionally the best part. That's where all the good shops were. That's where all the restaurants were. It was where the tall buildings were, the nice hotels. And now that's a scummy part because what it did, it moved to a new place called Jiangbei. Goes to Jiangbei, all the property prices shoot up. They're double what it was where I lived, right?
Right.
That's where all the restaurants move to. It's where all the glitzy buildings go to. Now that place is the shithole.
Yeah.
That place is crap now.
Sure.
So it moves down to another place, and the place that it moved to now was the shithole when I lived there.
Right.
So the nicest part of the city is the crappiest part when I was living there. It's constantly shifting, and it follows the property bubble.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's constant. It's like the infrastructure surrounding the areas is very fake. Because you get the same chain restaurants, the same stuff that springs up and then goes derelict a couple years later when the investment moves to another spot.
That's right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so anyway, let's move on to some very positive, uplifting news.
Yeah, no more tremors in China.
Spider-Man, No Way Home. No, I haven't seen it yet, but apparently it earned $1 billion without a release in China.
Well, one might say it's definitely not a Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why is this so significant? We have seen Hollywood kowtow to Chinese censorship for the longest time because they believe that they must get a piece of the Chinese market because it is the largest market in the world. It makes sense when it comes to moviegoers.
1.4 billion people.
Yeah,
right?
so they want a piece of that market, but this goes and proves that they don't have to have a piece of that market to still be successful.
Yeah.
And I wish that companies would see this, like Hollywood. I hope they take note of this and say, you know what? We did really well without the Chinese market. So what about we just keep making movies the way we've always made them in the past? And if China wants to, show our movies because they're popular and everyone wants to see them, then they can show them. It shouldn't be the other way around where it's like, oh my God, we better make this movie China friendly.
For those new viewers that don't really understand the context here, I want to make sure that you understand that there's nothing inherently wrong with making a movie that's going to appeal to the Chinese market.
Of course not.
There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is that the censoring they weren't doing in-house censoring in China. So let's say Star Wars comes out here, then they want to in-house censor all the gay scenes out in China, right? Yeah. They do that, right? But not only that, it was censoring within America before the movie came out. Yeah. And that was where our problem was. You can't censor a movie and completely capitulate to a communist government and have their standards of censorship before it even lands on their shores. Yeah. That's inherently wrong.
So it affects you. Right. So, if a director or the writer or anything like that wants to put in something that the Chinese government might see as unacceptable, maybe they'll talk about something sensitive when it comes to Tibet or Tiananmen Square, or never mind even that stuff. Just certain parts where the Chinese censors don't allow things like skeletons and things like that. There's certain parts, like certain monsters you can't show. So imagine you're going to make this movie and you've got this grand vision, but then you have to change it and shape it and censor out like half of your vision just so that the movie is viable for China. That's what's been happening. And so it's nice to see some movies doing well without even being released in China. And in fact, the numbers are quite crazy because they did better than even that mandatory nationalist movie, that the Battle at Lake Changjin, which, by the way, if you do a little bit of reading into the movie, is vastly inaccurate. First of all, it's very, very inaccurate because if you know the history of that particular battle, China had so many losses, and it wasn't because of the enemy, it was because of their poor planning. Yeah. Because China, Mao Zedong sent his best troops there to go and fight the Americans, and they were far away.
In Korea.
Yeah, to fight in Korea, for those of you who don't know. They were so far away that they had to really mobilize them quickly, and in order to get them there as quickly as possible, they ordered them not to take their winter gear because that would slow them down. Yeah. And when they got there, vast amounts of them froze to death because they weren't properly equipped. So at the end of the day, it's actually an historical embarrassment for China, but they made it into this nationalist movie about how they, went there and beat the Americans and how amazing they were and stuff like that. Not a very good movie as far as historical accuracy is concerned, but on top of that, they were making it mandatory for schools to go and watch it. They were making they were making the children eat like, I don't know, what was it, like flour
or something,
like stale rice and stuff to show solidarity for the
heroes
that died at that time, that kind of thing. But they made it mandatory, so you can understand that the amount of people that went to go and see this movie, it wasn't a natural thing. It was like a nationalist, you must go and see it type thing. And the way China works with the box office is they will also like make sure that pensioners get a free ticket to go and see it, so it counts. Even if they don't go to watch it, they'll still tick it off as being a view and a sale and that kind of thing. So you're looking at very inflated numbers and cooking of the books, so to speak. And it still got beat out by freedom of choice.
Yes.
So you see, that's, at the end of the day, what's important here is what you're seeing is freedom of choice, Spider-Man, and sort of mandated...
Shibai-de-man.
Yeah.
Shibai means failure, by the way.
Yeah,
in Chinese.
Exactly.
So Shibai-de-man would be failure man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit of a play on words in China. I used to hear kids say that all the time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quote Chairman Mao. You reminded me.
Okay, what did he say?
So people might say, why would a world leader sacrifice that many million, soldiers to go basically march into their deaths like a meat grinder?
Yeah.
Certainly that just must be some bad planning. Well, no. Chairman Mao has been very explicit about how he feels about Chinese people. And I quote, so if you ever meet like a pro-communist tanky that loves Chairman Mao.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of nuclear war. Doesn't matter if some are killed. China has a population of 600 million. Even if half of them are killed, there are still 300 million people left. And that is from Chairman Mao himself.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He really doesn't care. Not care about his people.
Yes.
Yeah, he's still on the money, and they care about him for some reason. Stockholm syndrome, perhaps.
Certainly.
Anyway, time for us to do a couple of super chats, and we're going to move on to our main thing, which is, of course, is all about the craziness that's going on right now in China.
Charles Womack says this episode has to be twice as great as normal, but I'm certain that it'll be a great show anyway. He also said, it seems that North Korea had a food-saving campaign called Let's Eat Only 2 Meals a Day, and Xi Jinping has an Operation Empty Plate. Definitely a communist thing. Agreed. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Lau, hi ADV, Happy New Year. May it be possible for you guys to do a react to Wu Mao hate comments videos, kind of like Jimmy Kimmel, maybe an April Fool's. We can do that as our April Fool's video.
Yeah, that sounds
good. Come in for your soup says, can you sing a little bit of Boko Haram to mark the new year?
Maybe at the end. Maybe
we'll do it
at the end.
We'll do it in Yamcha.
In Yamcha, yeah.
Love what you do from Ireland. Oh, so it seems like the Irish have a short memory
of
the atrocities you've spoken of against their wonderful
nation. I didn't say there's
nation.
anything wrong with Irish people or Ireland or anything like that, did I?
You got a lot of people mad with your leprechauns and your limericks.
Leprechauns come from Ireland, okay?
True.
You're gonna debate
I checked
that?
Actually, if you check their 2021 census, it was at least 5% of the population.
Okay.
Jonathan Case, I had shoe fly pie and it was so-so. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I like it.
By the way, this story is important since my girlfriend is from Xi'an.
Oh, excellent.
That's good.
We're going to talk a lot about that, don't you worry.
Lightseeker says, Happy New Year, guys. You're the most righteous ass guys on the whole platform.
Thank you.
Ross Wolf says, man, China can't even do stormtroopers, right? Koala 1203, Happy New Year's, guys. Hope 2022 doesn't kill us all, either by microbes or viruses or the tip of a nuclear warhead. That's a little grim.
Yeah.
Espina says, don't got time to watch you guys live. PSA, remember, recommended oil change intervals are for ideal conditions. Do them sooner. Okay. What is this, freaking AutoZone propaganda? Thank you. Mm-hmm. Also, he says, in my opinion, Pooh will go down in history as a bad man, but it concerns me that there will be Chinese people who will give excuses for this despot.
They give excuses for Mao, so that's life.
Sure.
By the way, they're trying to combat pollution up north and save on coal and that kind of thing. And so what they've been doing is, those Kong, those kind of bed stoves that people have to keep themselves warm.
Yeah. So a Kong is, I'll just explain so people know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything here. It's a square block of concrete, basically, or bricks usually. Yeah. And it will be hollowed out in the middle. And what you do is you stoke a fire under the bed. So you lay on top of a fire.
Yeah.
It heats up the bricks. And then you put duvets and blankets
and
over
it's
it.
also like a stove. You can cook things and whatnot.
Yes. And the most important feature of this is not for one person. The whole family will sleep on the same Kong.
Yeah.
You're sleeping on concrete. Hot concrete.
Yeah. But it's so cold up there.
You have to, for sure.
But because they're trying to cut down on pollution, the local level government guys are actually going in and cementing up and concreting up people's Kongs so they can't use it, or smashing them even. It's ridiculous. What they're doing is, as an alternative, is giving them kind of like a space heater type thing, like an electric heater. But the people are saying that they're ineffective and aren't working.
Well, also that uses coal power.
It does,
like literally down the road from the coal plant.
The thing is, when they burn the coal, obviously,
the raw coal
it's
is much worse.
It's just billows
I know.
of smoke.
If I lived up north for a few years, and you always know when it's winter season, because all the people that cook food on the side of the road, right? They start using coal for that, right? Mm-hmm. And they start using lots of coal because they use it to heat up the whole thing when they're like cooking outside. And the whole place starts smelling like coal. And people use it at home too. They use charcoal briquettes to heat up their house.
That's right.
And it's still like that in a lot of places.
Yeah, no, it can be pretty dire, but they're being really like horrible.
Yeah, that's the thing is that, okay, like maybe if you're super environmentally conscious, we love the environment,
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the solution here.
Yeah.
People have this fantasy that China plays this long game. We always talk about this long game. They're always like, well, China may be like effing up here and there, but they play the long game. Yeah. No, maybe economically for like investing in infrastructure abroad. Okay, so they can get their CCP tentacles into everything.
Yeah,
get a port or something. But what we're talking about is like the short-term solutions to this stuff is not long game stuff. No. This is like, what do you do? Oh, pollution's so bad, and Xi Jinping said that we have to hit this quota. Again, the quota, right?
Yeah.
Before whatever Olympics. So what are we going to do? Well, the easiest knee-jerk reaction is to go send people out with concrete to go bulldoze over people's freaking cars.
Yeah, it's terrible.
What are you doing? That's Mao stuff.
Also, the fact is the Beijing 2022 Olympics, which we're encouraging as many people as possible to boycott, they're coming up, and they're going to have to cut down on pollution in that area, in the north, in the Beijing area. They're going to be doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
Because as much as they keep putting out propaganda about their green technology they're using, that's not going to stop the pollution in Beijing.
No.
So they're going to be doing extreme stuff. Anyway, we should probably move on to our main segment, which is, of course, Soft Power Hour, where we talk about what China's doing, normally to change your mind. And now we're actually going to get onto this footage. Now, at first, there was this. We're going to show you a piece of footage now that has been circulating. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's so terrible. What's going on here? But we're going to explain that this is not as bad as it looks, really. Let's talk about this.
It depends on your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here, Simok?
So this is, well, again, let me say what people were saying.
Yeah, what were people saying about
people
this?
were, oh, that's your phone, sorry.
Yeah.
People were seeing this, we'll pause it there maybe. People were seeing this and saying, look, it looks like the freaking Star Wars, like the Empire is mobilizing all the stormtroopers. So what this looks like is some sort of massive biological response team that's going to go force everyone into lockdown or point guns at them or do whatever, right? Some sort of massive, like 1984 suppression campaign.
Yeah.
So you look at that and you're like, yeah, it does look scary. But I feel like people's minds run super wild when they see hazmat suits, by the way.
Sure.
Because like you didn't before the pandemic, you don't normally see a hazmat suit, right?
Sure.
I'll be honest, that one time I went to the hospital during the pandemic, not because of the pandemic. I'm in there just for normal stuff, and the guy coming into my room is in like a full hazmat suit with a breather tank on his back and stuff, and it's a bit unnerving, right?
Sure.
So seeing the hazmat stuff, I feel like people make their own assumptions, especially when China doesn't have an answer for any of this stuff. So a cell phone video like this comes out, goes everywhere. And I'll be honest with you, this stuff makes me almost as mad as when I see like CCP propaganda stuff come out, because I don't like when people get stuff wrong and then jump to conclusions, because it's like the telephone game.
Sure.
The next guy is saying like China's having a civil war reaction against their own people.
Yeah.
Now it's because of pro-democracy stuff, and people have had enough of the lockdown, so they're all coming out, so they're mobilizing.
Yeah, basically, people will take this footage and then weave their own narrative on top of it.
Right.
And it's
correct.
And it's usually wildly inaccurate, because what was going on here?
So what actually happened here was this is all for the cameras. This is a propaganda campaign that they were doing to show the support for their healthcare workers.
Yeah.
So they had all their healthcare workers don the hazmat gear and then line up and do their like, we are so strong, oh, we are so proud to be.
It was a training
first
exercise
response
as well.
Yeah.
Just getting.
It was
both,
both, right? So they do training exercise to mobilize them, but they have the cameras out so they can say, we are so proud of our first responders. We are strong, China's strong, etc.
Yeah.
Which in itself is, let's be honest, like it has its own purposes, right? It's also to make the public be like, I don't know about this, because they also had armed soldiers and SWAT team people around them, right? And this is not to shoot the people.
No.
This was to be part of the campaign, to be
just
part
a big,
of the
big
video,
parade,
right?
Okay, so now we got that out of the way.
Yeah. I just wanted to, make that clear.
Sure. So it was a big training exercise and a parade to show...
A parade, that's a good way to put it.
It's just a parade. You know, they love to have the military parades.
They do those all the time.
Yeah.
See those police motorcycles in there?
It's just a parade.
Yeah.
Of course, we've now, since that footage has come out, some crazy things have started to go on in Xi'an. So, like, real things to worry about. Yeah. Okay, this is still the same parade footage that we're seeing in the background. Okay.
So, let's take you back in time.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit.
Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic in China when, number one, they said it didn't come from China?
Yeah.
Number two, they also said that they had the only proper way to defeat it. Taiwan can't do it. America can't do it. We will defeat the pandemic by closing everything down. By the way, the same leadership in China said it was racist and not okay to close down your borders to China when the pandemic first broke out. It spread, and then they closed off all their borders to the whole world. Number three, they said they defeated it, and you had all the pro-CCP Western shills out there saying China defeated COVID. You had their own propaganda go out there. They even had a pool party here in Wuhan, where the outbreak happened, saying that COVID is gone. Keep in mind, this is pre-vaccine. This is a very long time ago, right? And they put on this massive maskless pool party with thousands of people to say, yeah, screw the rest of the world. We got these DJs here. We beat COVID, right? And we were just like shocked to see this. We were like, guys, celebrating a little early, eh?
Yeah, no joke. It's been really frustrating to see the narratives that have been coming out of China when it comes to their so-called zero COVID policy. And like you say, first they came out with this, we're so great at beating this thing, and they built those fake hospitals which all fell apart and they couldn't use them anyway. And then afterwards they're like, we beat it. Closed off all their borders. They implemented very strict testing and the whole QR code, like basically a vaccine passport. Not a vaccine passport, a health passport.
That tracks all of your locations.
Yeah, by the way, if you like the government knowing exactly where you've been and where you are right now, you're going to love the way China has that. Because, look, I know here in America you get a lot of right-wing and left-wing people all up about this vaccine passport thing. But this is crazy what happens in China. Every shopping mall, every place you go into, you have to get your code scanned, your little green code that says you don't have COVID. And it's in a database. They know exactly where you were at what time and where you're going and all that sort of thing. So if you like your privacy, you're not going to like that very much, basically.
So go to the next picture or the next slide, because what we'll see is the current situation.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not laughing about this. It makes me uncomfortable. But they're bringing back the exact same propaganda that you saw right at the first outbreak. You can play it. It's a video.
Yeah, take a look. Now, okay, we've talked about this before, but I'd like to point out that what they're doing here by spraying these disinfectant chemicals everywhere isn't the way to actually combat this virus.
No, this is for propaganda, because we talked about this. I wish we could record our conversations, because sometimes we say it better. But this is powerful imagery to show some 70-year-old lost generation guy in China that has no idea about virology or bacteria or pathology. They know that I get sick if I don't drink hot water, right?
Sure.
So they see these robot dudes, right? Or these like hazmat dudes walking around with these big billowing clouds. They're basically smoke machines with disinfectant in them.
Yeah.
And they say, wow, that's going to clean everything. That's their knowledge is limited to that, right? So this is pure propaganda.
Do you understand what that is doing to the environment? Those chemicals that are being sprayed everywhere are going into the groundwater, they're going into the soil, they're going into the air, they're going everywhere. So whatever chemical disinfectant they're using everywhere is going to have a detrimental, effect on basically
we
the
know vaping
environment.
is not good for you, and this is
this ain't vaping. You're not going to get popcorn lung from that.
oh, you get something. But spraying the road. I don't think people are getting COVID from laying down and licking the street.
Yeah,
because that is literally what they're disinfecting right now.
Yeah,
and look at the propaganda banners right beside it. It's all for a purpose.
Yeah,
it's
you see the propaganda banners are there for the camera.
Right.
It's the whole point. It's like, this is what we're doing. Look how great we are. We're going to clean the streets.
So we're back. We are back to initial COVID precautions and freak out status in China, especially in Xi'an here. This woman here just got arrested. She was trying to buy some food.
Yeah.
Cops took her away. I'll explain this. Some of this stuff will have to be censored, but this guy, they've just arrested this guy. He was also trying to buy some food. This woman's been locked in her little garden area for 13 days.
Yes.
She's looking at the sign. It says she can't go out. A lot of people are running out of food.
Yeah, of course.
We're not talking about mass starvation like back in Mao's time. We're talking about people are running low on supplies because this came out of nowhere. You can pause it.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning when we warned people, we get thank yous all the time from people like, oh, thank you for preparing me, because there was a big food rush.
Yeah, people went out and bought stuff. Yeah.
But there was still food, right? Yeah. The thing is here, nobody had a real warning in Xi'an this time around when Omicron broke out, right?
Yeah.
And this is the crazy thing, is that I've been talking to people that are there, and there was like one case. There'll be one case in a neighborhood, right? One case, because they're doing forced testing twice a day.
Yeah.
So they come up with one case, and actually it's a lot more than one case, but they get the one case and they shut everything down.
Yeah.
And they don't report anymore, because
No.
then it's the CCP leader's head,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But what they'll do is they'll block everyone in their little Xiaoqu.
Yes.
So their Xiaoqu is like their garden area.
Yeah, it's like an apartment complex.
Now
it's
it's
walled off, it's gated off, so you can't get in and out without going through, like you can see here.
But the people in there are spreading amongst themselves,
Of course,
obviously.
yeah.
So they're locked in here, and people are freaking out because they didn't have like a week or 2 weeks to say, oh, here we go. Because the government, what happened was they said, no, we don't have COVID.
Yes.
No, we've already defeated it. Look at this stupid. We watched the reports from Chinese media today.
Yeah.
Talking about how bad America has gotten hit, how bad London and England has gotten hit. And nothing about how bad it's actually happening within China. So people outside of Xi'an don't really know what's happening.
No.
But people in Xi'an didn't get any outside media, so they don't know that this is coming. So here they are in a situation where they got slapped in the face and had no supplies ready, right?
Yeah.
So they can't even go out and panic buy or anything.
No, they can't.
They're running out of food.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. Here's the thing. I spoke to some people in China, some of my friends, and I was actually quite appalled because people that are not in Xi'an right now are just saying, oh, everything's cool. I can do what I want. Okay. And so when you're like, listen, what about the severe lockdowns that are happening in Xi'an? Oh, it doesn't affect me. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me.
There's 7.16 million people in Xi'an.
Yeah.
This goes so much deeper than COVID.
Yeah.
It's a full-on understanding of China, and you and I were having a discussion earlier about a Chinese perspective, a Chinese person I spoke to, right? People ask them, and these are anti-CCP Chinese people. They ask them, they say, why don't you guys rise up? Clearly there's definitely millions of you in China that are not just apathetic, that you really don't like the leadership in China. Why don't you go do another Tiananmen Square, but this time you'll have international press, right?
Yeah.
More international press. And the explanation was very concise and clear, and it's that you can't have another Tiananmen Square because in 1989, everyone knew about what was happening.
Yes.
China wasn't a free country, but it's a lot freer than it is now.
Yeah.
So back then, you had word of mouth, you had newspapers, you had international reporters on the scene.
Yeah.
And people, by and large, supported the Tiananmen Square protesters, right? It was a huge thing. People were like aunts and uncles, grandfathers, grandmothers. They were like, a democratic China, that sounds good, right? Yeah. Nowadays, when you have a mass protest like you do, for example, there was a school in Inner Mongolia. They got rid of the Mongolian language.
Yeah, they completely banned it.
It's an autonomous province. You're supposed to allow people to live. You're supposed to not govern them, basically. That's what an autonomous province is. Leave the Mongolian people alone. No. China said, no more Chinese language in your schools.
You mean Mongolian language?
Sorry, Mongolian language, and you must speak Chinese in your schools. Sure. People freak out. They say, we're not Chinese. We are Mongolian. You're supposed to leave us alone. Big protest happens. Huge, massive thing. But nobody hears about it.
Nope.
Because they shut down news on the internet, the Great Firewall of China. No newspapers cover it. There's no independent journalism. So nothing can ever catch on. So when you see things like this, you're talking about the apathy for people outside of Xi'an.
Yeah.
They don't even know about this stuff. No. And if they do, they're like, well, it's not really my issue.
It doesn't bother me. And that's what really annoys me is everyone lives in a kind of a little bubble in China. And until something actually physically affects them, they don't care about it, and that's just the way it works simply because of all the blackout of the news. So the people I'm talking to in China, they're like, yeah, no, everything's fine. I'm going out. I'm going to have a good time. Yeah, we wear masks. We have to have our code or whatever, but I can go do what I want type thing. And that's all nice and good. What about the people in Xi'an? And that could happen to you next, because if your little part of China there, somebody gets an infection, you're all locked down in this terrible way as well. So now the danger, and I've been having people reach out and ask me, are people starving to death in China? I'm like, no. Okay, they're not starving to death. But what's happening is, to make this very clear, like what you're seeing with that woman over there, is people are locked in their apartment complexes, right? Now, previously, one member of the household is allowed to go out one time a day. Okay, They get like a pass. It's an actual physical pass that allows them out for an hour. They're allowed to go out and buy vegetables and food and whatever, and then go back one time a day. Because you have to understand, in China, they're not big on refrigeration. They're not big on keeping long life goods and stuff. It's got to be fresh every day. That's one of the weaknesses of the whole system when it comes to a lockdown like this, because they have to go out, get their vegetables, get their meat.
People have refrigerators,
but they don't like to.
They're not geared up for refrigeration.
So they don't have like a week's worth of stuff in the house.
That's correct.
They'll have like their spices and things, but they have to go out to buy stuff every day. So what's happening is, we're having a situation now where they're actually not even allowing people to go out once a day. And so they're stuck with whatever they've got in the house, which is not a lot.
No.
And they might get a little bit of support here and there from the government, but it's not enough. It's not what they're used to. So now they're really worried that they can't get their food. All of the supermarkets and places where they usually buy food have also been shut down as well. So even if they could go out, there's nothing to buy. And so it's quite dire for some of these people. They don't know what's going to happen. And if the government doesn't come and give them like a ration every day or something, they might actually be in some serious trouble.
Right. And we did have people starve to death in the last lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the thing. So go ahead and play this out. There's a couple of these situations here.
Yeah.
Where this woman's obviously freaking out. And I understand the frustration.
Because that's the exit where she should be able to go out to go buy her vegetables.
And she's supposed to be able to go buy her daily goods. And now they're not even allowing that.
Yeah.
So, and it's heartless too. They'll send in cops and basically completely mess with these people. I had to leave out the most violent footage. Some really bad stuff.
Now, this is quite old, this footage, actually. I've seen it months ago.
It was actually supposed to be next to the pool party thing.
Okay, yeah.
It's for juxtaposition about how wild the lockdown stuff was.
Yeah, I know. Because, I mean, look, it's this arrogance of, hey, we know how to deal with COVID the best. Look how amazing we are at dealing with COVID. But it literally means locking people up like zoo animals, okay?
Vaccines, yes. Masks, yes. Great. This is what China's approach was.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be palatable for you.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, put me in a box.
Yeah. Don't let me
and
leave
feed
my
me out
house.
of a trough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's terrible. So, the people that are out there praising China's zero COVID policy, you have to understand that if you want to go down that route, you have to give up all of your liberties and freedoms. Okay, that's really the bottom line.
Yeah,
you have to let the government track you exactly where you are, exactly what you're doing. I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's already happening," blah blah blah. No, it's not.
No.
It's absolutely not. At least not here in America.
The whole concern about vaccine passports or tracking all this kind of stuff. I understand what people like their privacy. I like my privacy too.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you talk about China, it's a different realm.
Yes.
The vaccine passport thing with their QR code stuff, they have ones for the city, they have ones for the outside the city, they have ones for to travel abroad, which you can't do. Oh, you can't come back without quarantine. The government doesn't use that just to track COVID. Sure. Do you understand? It's for political dissidents. It's for people that have committed perceived crimes. It's now being intertwined in that huge web of surveillance that China's building.
What's even worse is that even if you have a green code, so you've been tested and you're negative, but your vaccine, I'm saying vaccine, it's not really vaccine, it's your health
passport,
code or whatever it is, says that you've been to Shanghai or somewhere near Xi'an where there was an outbreak. They still don't let you into places.
No, it's not like a be-all, end-all thing.
So it's like, oh, you're green, you're passed, but they're like, oh, but you've recently been near Xi'an, sorry, you're not coming in.
Or if you're a foreigner, if you're not Chinese and you have a green then
you can just then
they're like, no, we still can't come in. But go to the next clip here. I think sorry, this one was out of order. I just wanted to show some context. So this guy, I'll just translate here. So this guy says, we're not even allowed to go out at all now. And the guy says, this healthcare worker dude, he goes, no. And he says, well, what if we starve to death? And he says, well, then starve to death.
Yeah.
You can't go out. It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
He says,
Ursa means starve to death, or hungry to death.
Yeah, he says, you starve to death, you starve to death. So you're in a situation now where people are getting limited. Like this woman or man here down with in the bottom right and the top right, sorry. They're trying to get out of where they're supposed to and used to go.
Yeah.
To go get their daily food supplies. And they just absolutely, I had to censor it here, but it gets very brutal. This one on the left, you can hear a little sound right now.
Yeah, they're singing communist songs.
So you can pause it. You see they're waving their cell phones. Maybe pause it on the little tent there. So what they're doing here is they want food, right?
Right.
They want food they have to go their daily testing thing,
yeah.
Nucleic acid test. But they want food. They're not allowed. They get mandatory tested, but they don't get to go out and buy their food even if they're negative, right? So you have a situation where some cheeky people are like, fine, it's the CCP that's doing this to us. Let's sing some CCP communist songs. So they're singing communist songs and Hongge, they're called in Chinese. I guess you call them communist songs.
Yeah, red songs.
Red songs. So songs supporting the Chinese Communist Party because maybe then they'll get some food.
Yeah, sure,
right?
Sure.
It's pretty awful.
No, it's not a good situation.
No.
So that's what's currently going on in Xi'an, basically. And I've been to Xi'an. You've been to Xi'an, right? That's where the terracotta warriors are.
That's correct.
I got some very good Muslim food there too.
Great
by
Muslim
the way.
food.
It's really fantastic. But yeah,
not that food has a religious ideology.
No.
No, but that's what it's called in China.
Yeah, it's called Muslim. They've got a Muslim street.
Yeah, so Chinese Muslims, the Hui Muslim people, they have a whole food street there, whole food area there. It's really good.
It's very touristy, but it's delicious.
It's amazing.
It's like the best. It was actually probably the best food I had in China.
That area of food is called Xibei food, and it's probably my favorite food in China.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anyway, so... Now this is
here?
The reality. Okay, so pause it here. We'll have to play that a couple times. You see those? Remember in the beginning when we showed the whole parade thing?
Yes.
This is not a parade.
Yeah, no, this isn't a parade.
Now this is real. Yeah. So when I said that it's to be taken seriously, it's just that the wrong clip was taken seriously. Yes. This is breaking. This just broke. Mm-hmm. This is now in Xi'an.
Yeah.
They are mobilizing martial law.
Yeah.
So right now you can play it. Martial law is happening. They have the SWAT team. Mm-hmm. They have the special police, Tejin. Mm-hmm. They have, I guess that's the SWAT team. There's two different kinds though.
Yeah.
They're bussing in soldiers. Mm-hmm. They're bussing in medical police. How do you say that in English?
No idea.
So police that are armed in medical gear, basically.
Not a paramedic, that's for sure.
Not a paramedic. There's so many things in Chinese I don't know how to translate.
Paramilitary medic, maybe.
I don't know how to translate into English. Anyway, so they're busing these
medics with guns.
Yeah. They're busing these people in.
Yeah.
Because they were worried that people were breaking out of their little quarantine thing, right? Mm-hmm. Now, this was not happening en masse. The few clips I showed you before, that's kind of what you're seeing as isolated incidents.
Yeah.
But it was enough to elicit a national response, not a local response. These are from the top. These are from the top. National police. So you could say federal if it was in America, right? This is federal stuff, not local stuff.
Yeah.
And this is going crazy. There's another clip after this.
Is there?
Yeah, you can play these. So this is these are going wild. Maybe it's just these two, but
it's just those.
Yeah, those are breaking.
Here's the thing that's really stupid about all of this is that the Omicron variant, which should have been called the Xi variant, by the way.
Yeah, and we're not being facetious. That was the next,
it should have been
Greek
called the
letter
Xi
in line.
variant. Yeah, this Omicron variant isn't actually that bad.
Yeah, well, we don't know yet, but
so far
from the data so far, it looks to be less harsh than Delta.
Yeah, so less lethal.
To us is good news thus far.
Yeah, from what we can see. Mm-hmm. But the measures that China's put in, and they've stuck to this zero COVID policy, and because the Chinese government has basically got a hard-on for this whole zero COVID thing, and that's their hardline stance. We're going to only do the zero COVID policy. They have to enact this kind of stuff and destroy people's freedoms and lock people down in this ridiculous way. And it's really not the best thing, Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that in the rest of the world we're getting massive infections, whatever, 100,000 a day here.
It's crazy.
And there. The next
bad. It's a bad thing.
It's absolutely terrible. But you're not being locked in your house.
No.
And you don't
It's
have
your discretion.
People in hazmat suits and guns.
Play that clip again. Look at them running through the streets. And you have to understand, these are armed people. Mm-hmm. This is not like a marathon practice here.
Sure.
This is martial law being enacted right now. It's wild.
See on the left,
and you have a media blackout, by the way.
Of course you have a media blackout. That's why my friends in China don't think anything's going on.
Yeah.
I'm appalled at their apathy, I think is the right word. I'm just absolutely appalled.
It's by design.
I understand, but I'm appalled that they have such a lack of empathy for their fellow man.
Well, do you remember what happened? Maybe you can pause it there. You can see them going through the barriers, right? The barricades.
Yeah.
So it's not just normal people. So do you remember in the beginning when it broke out in Wuhan and China actually admitted it? It was like, oh, it's from Wuhan.
Yes.
So we're going to punish the leaders in Wuhan because it's their fault.
Yes.
Logic 100, freaking Skyrim stats.
You know they should have punished? Yes. That's who they should have punished.
Yeah, so they brought him in to wipe the scene down.
Exactly.
So, you know what happened was actually in the beginning, it was just a little refresher for you guys. We did massive coverage of this when we were speaking to people in China when the first breakout happened. Yeah. They blamed it on Wuhan. So what happened was nationally, the whole sentiment was to blame Wuhan.
Yes.
If you're from Wuhan, if you're Wuhanese, the Chinese people in China, I shouldn't say everyone, obviously the mean people, were calling them the virus.
Yeah.
They were calling them the Wuhan flu. They were calling them go back home. They were
they were not allowing people from Wuhan to leave Wuhan.
They were beating people up from Wuhan. Remember that?
Yeah. You
All
may
that
not
footage
come,
we got
you may not come
demonetized
here.
for. Yeah. So that was how the government portrayed it in the beginning. Yeah. Then they're like, shit, we can't say it came from China, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, whoa, it didn't come from Wuhan, And then it became Wuhan strong. Then everyone in the country was like, we band together, we support our Wuhan brothers and sisters.
Yeah, let's have a pool party.
This.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like on a dime. Let's hate Wuhan as Chinese people, and then, we love Wuhan.
I wonder if they're going to start hating Xi'an people now.
Could be.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the Xi'an people are being ostracized. You can't leave Xi'an.
No.
And if you've traveled near Xi'an, you're being like, you probably have the virus, get away from me.
Right. One might say they live in the fear.
Yes, they do. They live.
We'll live in the fear.
Unfortunately for them. Yeah. I don't actually want to make jokes about this because it's freaking terrible.
No, you have to make light of the ridiculousness of it, at the end of the day. Because the absolute amount of hypocrisy that we've seen coming out of the Chinese government and also by the supporters of the Chinese government is absolutely insane. We're all currently dealing with this terrible pandemic.
Right.
Now, whoever's to blame, Wuhan, Ballsack, Fauci, NIH, doesn't matter. Lab leak, I don't know, frozen food. It does matter. I mean, of course that matters. That matters a great deal so that we can figure out to prevent this from happening in the future.
Correct.
But at the same time, right now, There shouldn't be a freaking game about like,
No,
ha
correct.
ha, look
Right.
how great we did it, ha ha, you
But
suck.
that's how China does it.
Yes, it's terrible. Rather than working together, they've been number one at pointing fingers. First of all, not us, it's him. You suck. Look how many infections you guys have. Look how great we are. Let's have a pool party. Look how great we are. We don't have to wear masks. And it makes me sick because you don't see us over here saying, ha ha, look at you. You're being locked up and being,
Idiots.
Yeah, ooh, look at us. We've got such a better system here. We're so amazing over here.
Nobody's laughing
We
at
made a
people dying.
vaccine that actually works, unlike you. Ha ha.
Right.
We're not doing
No,
that. But
no.
China does that all the time from
Right.
its freaking government state media.
And they're doing it now.
It's
The pandemic
childish.
is now a sport to them.
Yeah.
They say, look at this number. Haha, you guys are all dying over there, idiots. How is democracy working out for you?
Yeah,
Bastards.
That's
Bitch.
exactly what they're saying. They're
China's like,
actually doing
"Bitch."
that. Yeah, they're like, look at our zero COVID policy, and meanwhile, they have this absolute draconian, disgusting lockdown, and the people at the end of the day are the people suffering.
Correct.
So who's the people that lose out here?
The people.
The Chinese people.
Yes. In
It's
China,
the,
yeah.
it's the Chinese people that end up suffering the most.
Yeah.
And it's terrible when you see the Chinese people supporting this government that actually hurts them the most.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't victimize Chinese people that are even nationalistic because they don't have a choice,
No,
right?
no.
They don't have any outside information. What I do blame is the Chinese government that makes a sport out of this, not
Yeah.
just for the rest of the world to laugh at America or whatever, but to laugh at their own human people.
Yeah.
To lock them up and do these horrendous things and say, if you want to starve to death, you're going to starve to death. That's just our policy. Now shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're going to destroy your Kung because we don't want you to be warm in winter because it makes pollution.
Yes. Okay, so
Now we're actually probably going to move on to the clip that we showed right in the beginning.
yes.
Okay. Which is actually unrelated.
But it's being related by people.
Yes. That's the problem is there's a lot of misinformation out there and we hope to try and prevent misinformation from going around.
Correct.
So
let us make some corrections to some shit you might have been reading.
yeah, now this is happening in Guangxi.
Guangxi, and it's also happening in Yunnan.
Yeah, Guangxi and Yunnan. Now, what you're seeing here, and the reason why people are talking about this a lot, is public shaming.
Mm-hmm.
What you see here is you see
Play this clip out, and the next one I zoomed it in and slowed it down so
Okay,
people
good.
can see it. Yeah.
basically a huge amount of police officers lining the streets. Okay, and then what you have is hazmat-clad police officers, 2 per person, and what they're doing is they're holding the shoulders of handcuffed people. There's
Prisoners.
four prisoners, okay? And these 4 prisoners are in hazmat suits too, and they each have a big placard on their chest, which has their photo and their name on it, and I presume the crime committed too, because they usually like to do that. And this is public shaming, and this harkens back to the struggle sessions and the crap that went on during the Cultural Revolution, or the Cultural Devolution, as I like to call it, and the Great Leap Backwards that Mao Zedong did.
Maybe
Where-
pause it there, yeah.
And what they did during that time was landlords, intellectuals, that type of person, they would do the same. They would put placards on their chest, write their name, write why they are bad, and they'd basically be put in a public square, and people would shout at them and berate them and throw
Beat them.
stones at them, beat them, do whatever. And, often resulting in their death.
Yeah, a lot of times.
And if they weren't killed then and there, they were taken to like a concentration camp
or shot
or
in the head,
something like that and taken
Shot in the
care of.
chest,
Yeah, some crap would have happened to them. So this harkens back to those times, and this kind of imagery is making people remember that, and that's why it's hitting so hard. But what you might not realize is that this is not something that's ever gone away.
No, that's what we were so confused about.
Yeah.
Why people are freaking out about this. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
But this is not new.
No.
This is not, and it's not old too.
No.
It's always happened.
I can tell you why, because when I first got to China, about 2006, I was living in China, well, Shenzhen's red light district, okay? And I was living in this red light village, and it was around about 2007-ish that they started to raid and clean up the place. Around 2007, just because they were doing it to clean it before the Beijing Olympics in 2008. So it was around about 2007 and a half, I could say.
Sure.
When they really started to get serious. Because previously the raids were just a way for the local cops to make money. They'd like all go raid, they'd go run in there, and then you'd see them all coming out later, and they'd have like some some drinks or whatever, and you'd see the managers from the place rush out and go buy a whole bunch of Wang Lao Jis and stuff and come in, which is like a drink.
It's a tea.
Yeah, it's like a health tea thing.
Iced tea, yeah.
Yeah, I used to drink it a lot. It's actually
good.
Yeah, it tastes really good. Yeah,
加多宝
Jiao Dou Bao is Wang Lao Ji.
怕热气
Yeah.
特加多宝
Yeah, 怕上火和加多包. Anyway, the whole thing is, you'd see this happen, and then obviously money would change hands, and then the cops would all like get out of there. But then 2007 and a half, they'd all rush in there, and then you'd see they'd bring all the prostitutes out. Okay, kind of all lined up. They'd start taking out the furniture, and they really just shut them down because finally they'd been given the I don't know, some directive from Beijing that now it actually has to be taken care of. So then they took care of it. Anyway, The reason I'm telling you this is, before that massive lockdown, they would occasionally have these little raids. Mm-hmm. What they do is they go into the brothels, which are usually just karaoke bars, disguised as a brothel. They go in, take out all the prostitutes and all the customers, okay?
Yeah.
Arrest them all. And then the next day, because in this village, every village has like a public square. They have, where their dancing aunties go and stuff.
This is a Mao invention thing. Every city had to have a public square.
Like a public square, yeah. So anyway, they drag these guys into the public square. Like the next day, you'd see them all there. The prostitutes and their customers. And they'd make them wear pink T-shirts, which said, like, I am a prostitute.
I am a whore.
Yeah. And then the men, like, I solicit prostitution. Yeah, in Chinese.
This is in where I live, too.
Yeah.
They did this everywhere.
This is Shenzhen.
Yeah.
This is like a top tier 1 city, okay? So it's on par with Beijing and Shanghai and Guangzhou. And I didn't know what it said in the beginning, and the friend I was living with, the Chinese guy, I'd ask him, and he told me exactly what was going on. To me, it was like insane. And they would put them on a stage there.
I remember.
And then they put them on the back of like a flatbed truck and then drive them around. I'm like,
where I live, they would make them walk down the street.
Yeah.
And it's just like this. Yeah. They have the police, and they would wear a placard saying their crime. We also had kidnappers that had to do that. That was all over the news and stuff.
Yeah.
But they would walk down the street, and the cops would have them, and then they bust them away in the cop cars.
Yeah.
It was everywhere, and this hasn't gone away.
No, so
their point.
Public shaming is a big part of Chinese culture, okay, and society, and it has been for probably hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's always been there, Put the person out there, throw eggs at them, whatever, that kind of nonsense. And the thing is, what you're seeing here is just that again, okay?
Yeah.
Now, let's try to explain what's going on with this.
So, I think the important thing is to actually break down the laws that we found surrounding this. So what's going on here is, I have a personal story I can share about this area, but this is the border of Vietnam and China, and Guangxi province in particular. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is I don't want to call this misinformation. What do you call it when it's kind of true? What I've been seeing is that these people are being paraded around for breaking COVID rules, right?
Yeah.
That's not 100% correct, but that's also not 100%
Yeah, exactly.
incorrect.
It's kind of like bending the truth.
It's bending the truth. This is
being very liberal at picking what you want to say.
I see what kind of people are saying this.
Yeah.
And I understand what their agenda is. It's to say, oh, be careful soon, or this is coming to streets near you in America. Scamdemic,
So this is not from breaking COVID laws per se.
What it is it's for public shaming for smuggling.
Yeah.
So
here's one of those trucks I was telling you about.
Yeah.
You see,
that's what they do.
That it's never gone away. But previously, I would just see like prostitutes. See, they have like a big banner on the side explaining what they've done wrong. I would see the prostitutes and their customers in a truck like that.
Yes.
But now you're seeing these. These hazmat dudes.
So what these people were guilty of here in this very scenario was that they were doing human trafficking.
Yeah.
Human trafficking, illegal border crossing, which is also breaking COVID rules. It's not only breaking COVID rules, it's breaking human trafficking laws.
Yeah. So, by human trafficking, they were facilitating people coming into China.
Correct. But
illegally.
Be careful with that, because I have a personal story that a lot of those people don't have a choice.
No, sure.
You know what I mean? So facilitating is also being a pimp human trafficker.
Yeah, of course. But it's also like people that want to get in, because right now to get into China is not really possible.
Correct.
And even if you're a Chinese citizen, you have to quarantine for 21 days or something like that, and it's a pain.
So leave it on here. Actually, this will be a good thing. So I went to. I'll make this quick because I have a whole video on it. It's called "The Story I Could Never Tell." Mm-hmm. I went to the border town of Guangxi with the border of Vietnam, and it was split by a river that split the two countries. Now, this area was never covered in the news because there was actually a huge thing where Vietnamese people stormed across the border, and there's like a little war with China there, like 2014 or something. But so there's actually a border crossing. But what they do is I met people in the Chinese army, the PLA, that facilitated the actual human trafficking across. At first, I thought I was actually distracting them from their job because we were drinking beer together around a fire. And I was like, there's people sneaking across on little boats. And they're like, yeah, we're doing it. Yeah. And they would radio in. The people would jet with a bunch of bags and run into China and vice versa. And what they were doing is bringing prostitutes over. They were bringing families over. They're bringing goods over from fruit to drugs. Yeah. But mostly it was human trafficking. And this is what's happening here. Yeah. Although it's illegal in China, it's absolutely facilitated by the local authorities, right? Yeah. So it's when you just told that story about prostitution. It's selectively cracked down on.
It is selective, yes.
It's 100% run by the government. These criminals that are in we always got confused, the Hui or the mafia and stuff, are actually government people.
They are.
And they facilitate human trafficking and stuff. And then when China decides that it wants to crack down on this type of behavior, it'll do it very publicly. And that's what you're seeing here, right? Oh, they're breaking the COVID rules. Oh, they're doing this or whatever. Time to parade them around with placards.
Well, you know how they broke the COVID rules is by crossing the border illegally.
Yeah, that's
where they broke the COVID rules.
But this goes way deeper. Yeah. This goes way deeper. And something Winston and I were discussing and finding, if you can keep going here. It goes, we could just look at the footage while we talk about this. Yeah. There's actually a huge crackdown campaign right now. And the reason you're seeing this is it's not limited to this one town in Guangxi.
No.
This is something you probably won't hear anywhere else. There's this huge breaking campaign right now called 10 of the Same.
10 of the Same. We're like, what are they talking? It's always a number thing, isn't it?
It's always. Yeah,
here's the actual document there.
Yes. So where are we here? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'll translate some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So this is the law right now. What's happening is China is pretending to care about catching illegal scammers coming across the border.
Yeah.
The idea is that you have scammers from China. You have the Shaju Pen thing, which you talked about in your video, where you can explain that real quick.
Yeah, the pig slaughtering scam. If you've ever gotten a random good-looking woman adding you on WhatsApp or sending you text messages and saying, trying to be your friend, oh, I got the wrong number, but you seem like a nice person, let's chat. And then it gets to like, how about investing in crypto or invest in some Forex thing? These scammers, because they can quite easily be caught within the borders of China, they usually set up shop just outside of China. So they go to Laos or Vietnam or Thailand or wherever they can go there, and they set up their scamming offices because that allows them to freely scam the people of China. Believe it or not, that's like their biggest market, actually, is the people. They scam their own people more. And internationally.
So, the important feature of this crackdown, the 10 of the Same crackdown that we found, is that they didn't take it seriously until they started affecting Chinese people within the borders of China.
Yes.
Right? They don't give a shit if you're in America or whatever. They'll let you scam all day and all night. They cared when people in China started getting effective and they got the wrong people.
Yeah, they scammed the wrong people.
If you scam the wrong person, like let's say it's a government official or something, then all of a sudden there's going to be some massive push. The 10 of the Same crackdown.
Yeah, you can scam foreigners all you want, though.
Yeah, and actually this had a knock-on effect. That's why you're seeing these crackdowns in Guangxi, which we just saw with the placard thing.
Yeah.
Actually, what's happening here is this is a deregistration campaign. Go to the next slide. It's a little bit more visual. Of northern Myanmar, so Burma.
Yeah.
You know how China had this huge thing where they supported the military junta?
Yes.
In Burma. What that did was it facilitated a lot of Chinese people going into Burma to try to make money. Right?
Yeah. Set up businesses.
You have this like friendly to China government all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You have all these illegal businesses, which actually already existed, but they're more now.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, those businesses turn from illegal jade or drugs, and China just passes a blind eye. They don't look at it because it's not affecting China, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you scam the wrong person. They set up these telecommunications scams and they're scamming people in China. Chinese people scamming people in China, by the way, living in Burma. And they come up with this massive crackdown campaign, 10 of the Same. So what they do is they're calling for your hukou, which is your household registration.
It's something that you don't understand how important this is. Think of it as your social security number, your birth certificate, all in one.
Right.
You cannot live without this thing. Your hukou is basically your own domestic passport. It proves you're a person and from what area you're from. Without it, you can't go to school. Without it, you can't get a job. Without it, you can't open a bank account. You can't do anything. It is your identity. And you could include a driver's license, everything all in one. That's what a hukou is. You need that.
So they're saying if you are scamming people from Burma as a Chinese person, scamming Chinese people as a Chinese person, and you don't come back to China to face your punishment,
yes,
then you get your hukou canceled, which basically makes you like stateless.
Yes.
Means they can do anything to you at that point. Your hukou means everything. I remember when people that didn't have a local hukou would get arrested in Huizhou when I was in that police station. That's when they got beat up, disappeared. They're done.
Yeah,
because
you're not a person.
You're not a person. You don't have a local hukou.
Yeah.
If you're a local hukou, they have to kind of play by the rules a little more. Okay, he's a local,
Yeah.
So if you have your hukou effectively deleted, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You might not even be able to come back.
No,
right?
That's the thing. How are you going to come back because you're not a person?
No.
It's like taking your citizenship away.
Correct.
It's like if you're an American, you go overseas, they cancel your citizenship and your passport is null and void. What are you going to do? You can't come back.
So let me read this. So this is the translation. So
right.
10 of the same, which is this campaign.
10 of the same.
Resolutely blocked fraud from northern Myanmar and initiated the deregistration procedure, making people stateless, basically. This practice of the state is really pleasing to the average person.
Okay.
It helps people, right? The national implementation of this does not mean that it's only implemented in a few regions. So this is all over. So if you get caught, that's why this is spreading to other regions.
Sure.
It's not just in northern Myanmar. This is where this started, right?
Yeah.
This country's attitude, it shows the country's attitude towards fraudsters, which is all well and good.
Yeah.
But internet fraud is so rampant, and the country has always been cracking down on it. However, this time the country's actions have directly caused those who smuggled abroad to commit online fraud against Chinese citizens directly to have returned to their country and surrender. So what they're saying is they promise that if you, who've been caught, by the way, if you go to the next slide, I think this is very important to show.
Yeah.
You guys remember the whole social credit system thing? Mm-hmm. Remember that what that is actually a huge online public database of people that can be judged, right? There are hundreds of pages of these people as their names, birth date, their address, where they currently are.
Yes.
Every single doxing detail you can ever imagine, right?
By the way, this is all public on the same website.
Yeah, and I blanked this out.
Yeah, we blanked out their details.
It's not blanked out on the government website.
No.
Every single person that's been involved. Now, keep in mind, this is not even just people that are actually doing the scams. This is people maybe even distantly related to them or have been or currently in that country.
Sure.
This is how crackdown quotas work, is they have to get a certain amount of people, so they throw an umbrella or a blanket out there and everyone gets caught in the net.
Yeah.
Right? So you have all these people here, and this is just a small smattering of them. They're saying to these people, like as a loudspeaker abroad, if you don't come back right now and get arrested, we're going to arrest you for international fraud, whether it's human trafficking or telecommunication scams, then we're literally going to cancel your citizenship.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what you're seeing in the Guangxi thing.
But I like how they say it's only if you scammed Chinese people. If you scam other people, it's okay. Fine. You don't need to come back. Yeah, do what you want.
So so we have all the 10 traits here. So
it's long. Just give
money
a quick
laundering.
paraphrase.
Yeah, there's
10 of the same.
Agriculture, everything is going to get canceled. You're effed.
Yeah.
If you've been participating in this and you don't come back.
And one of them
says all immediate family members of those stranded in northern Myanmar will not be provided new homesteads or declare new housing. So they're screwed.
Yeah. And they also go into like your children will not be able to get schooling.
Yes, that's a good point.
It's all part of this ridiculous thing. It's like this mafia type thing. And we were discussing this. You know, when they really want to go after someone, okay, they say to them, okay, if you don't come and get arrested, then you're going to be blackmarked, you're going to be blacklisted, and your children aren't going to be able to go to school. Your children aren't going to be able to apply for loans, that kind of thing. It's disgusting. What you're doing is perpetrating crime because what are you doing? If let's say they really do have a criminal father, why do the children have to be punished? You know what I mean?
Daddy you went to go scam people while he was living in Burma, and now I can't go to school.
Just imagine in America,
right?
Someone goes to jail,
right?
And you're like, okay, your kids are not allowed to go to school now. What the hell?
Like what?
Just because
you're creating more crime,
Daddy
like
went
you
to
said.
Daddy went to jail, so now we can't go to school. So now we don't have an education. Now we're going to become criminals.
Isn't China such a paradise?
It's
What a paradise. Why are
It's-
people looking up to the CCP's leadership?
I don't know. These shills that keep going on about how great China is, they obviously don't see this part of China.
It's Nazi Germany-esque.
Yeah.
It very much is.
It's terrible.
It's like you're guilty for your family's crimes.
Yeah.
Not only that, like I said, the amount of people that are getting caught up in the net of this aren't necessarily all criminals.
No,
But
sure.
listen to this. This is the last line here.
Yeah.
This is the government's quote, by the way. The 10 of the same is not just a talking point.
Okay.
Never challenge the bottom line of our public security organs, the PSB, right?
Yeah.
Advise the lost people. They call them the lost people, who are the Chinese people living and scamming while they're living in Burma,
Yeah.
who stay in northern Myanmar, who engage in fraud, to return home as soon as possible and surrender and strive for a lighter punishment. That's scary.
Strive for a lighter punishment.
You're on this list. That is
Yeah.
terrifying.
No, that's not good.
So I just wanted to say that you guys, hopefully you watch us for the reason for clearing things up. We wanted to make sure you guys, if you read a headline in America, maybe by right or left news, you're going to see like people breaking COVID restriction lockdown stuff.
being paraded on the street.
It's not that.
This is part of that 10 of the same
Yes.
crackdown. And one of those things in the 10 of the same is people smuggling and smuggling, across the border.
Correct.
And because China's got the zero COVID policy where they're like, no one from the outside is allowed to come in because, of course, they've convinced everyone that this virus comes from overseas and
Right.
it doesn't come from China.
Right.
And that's one of their big missions is to make sure nobody can come in. Right?
Correct.
So if these people allowed people to come in and potentially spread this foreign virus that's why this is happening.
You know what's so crazy though is like the PLA soldiers, the People's Liberation Army soldiers that did human trafficking.
Yeah.
They did that with impunity.
Yeah.
And obviously the local government knows because they're in the government, right? They do this kind of stuff, and a lot of China runs on crime. I'll be totally honest with you. A lot of it does. So you do this, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And then you get caught, and you're like, wait a minute, Mr. Zhang said it was fine.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I didn't know about this.
Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah.
And then everyone gets screwed.
We've seen that happen during our time in China.
So many times.
All those people with like, oh, let's get dodgy driver's licenses or let's get a dodgy this or that. And then like you pay and then next minute it's like, oh no, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, get you in under the table this. And then,
But someone
and then-
got arrested.
And then someone gets arrested
Yeah.
like, oh no, that can't happen anymore. It happens a lot. You got that guy at customs who's like smuggling things in all the time.
Yes.
And then it's like, whoops, no, he got arrested now because they changed the rules.
Because they changed the rules.
Yeah.
Like, everyone always pretends like, I know this guy, so it's fine.
Yeah. Nope.
Well, if you're not the top guy, then you're absolutely screwed and complicit when they decide to crack down.
Yeah.
China is so dodgy.
It's so corrupt and weird. Anyway, so I guess that pretty much covers that main topic, right? That's what we've been talking about this whole time. Those placards, those hazmat suits, that imagery that you've been seeing, now you know what it is. It's part of a crackdown. And this public shaming thing is something that's been part of China for eons, and it's going to continue to be a part of China. So next time you think China is fantastic and amazing, just remember that is part of China too.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's do a couple super chats, and then we're going to move on to our Wu Mao corner and then international.
Angry Dragon, thank you very much.
Oh, actually, this part of this.
We can go into. Let's do a couple super chats because
Okay.
it's similar, but it's separate.
Okay, all right.
Open your eyes. Looks up. No.
Okay, what?
No, first time catching you guys live. Happy New Year.
Sandwich
Sandwich
Biden.
Biden.
Nice. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Reactor Core says, visiting China soon, which VPNs are the safest? Go to nordvpn.com/ADVChina.
Yes. Use the code ADVChina.
You don't need, there's no code anymore. You just need to go to nordvpn.com.
You'll get a huge discount.
off a 2-year plan.
There we go.
We're not getting paid this time.
No.
But we still support the VPN.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely Nord is our favorite. Not just because they support us, it's easiest to use.
And it works.
And it works. Mika Van
Oh, but
Emmerich.
all VPNs, by the way, work and don't work.
Yeah,
depending
in
on the
China,
time.
it depends on what's going on.
But Nord's the best.
Yeah. Mika Van Emmerich, currently isolating into 2022. So have some Euro monies from quarantine. Are you making money by quarantining? Do you have like a quarantine farm? I appreciate that.
It sucks if anyone's in quarantine or in lockdown, because it does exist. I mean, in South Africa,
no, it
they've
does.
got lockdown. And
Not here, but
yeah, just stay strong. We'll get through this.
sure. Luna Corvus, happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Dylan Viennet says, Dylan, our man. Happy New Year from Saudi Arabia, gents. He's in Saudi Arabia currently.
Fantastic.
Been overseas and never missed a show. Did you hear about those in Mexico suing China and WHO over COVID?
No.
The face the CCP will lose from that is a win in itself.
That's really interesting.
Should get more news.
Definitely going to look into that. Yeah.
Alpha 101 says, Happy New Year's, guys. Best of luck and continued success.
Thank you.
Crabman says, I waited 2 weeks to tell you biscuit munchers that the Wellerman is a New Zealand folk song. I won't let you get away with this foolishness. And we did correct ourselves.
Yeah, we corrected it from Irish to Scottish to
we did at the end.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
To...
I think he turned off because he got so mad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, we did.
He read out of it. Thank you. I appreciate that, Crabman. Dylan Vienna, Xi Jinping barely speaks Chinese, let alone English. It's very true.
You're absolutely
He's
right.
the least well-spoken leader. Like, actually, all of the Chinese leaders, Chairman Mao was very well-spoken.
Yeah, he was.
Poetry
He had his
he's very
calligraphy
smart.
and stuff.
He was actually really smart.
Smart, but terrible.
Deng Xiaoping was
Like a
crass.
psychopath.
He was crass and awful, but at the same time, his policies, he was apt to listen to people, his policy decision makers. Jiang Zemin was incredible. I mean, if you think about it, not a good person.
No, looks like he crawled out of a swamp.
Sure. He also did impromptu interviews in English on 60 Minutes and stuff.
Yeah,
that was leadership to me.
Yeah.
And Hu Jintao was placid and it didn't say a whole lot.
I liked him.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was the best years of China.
Sure.
It was when he was in charge.
Yeah, we shouldn't say we support any.
No. I'm just saying, like,
policies were awful.
As far as all these people are concerned.
He also banned the internet.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right.
That being said, Xi Jinping's the least well-spoken and least educated out of all of them.
That's
by
correct.
far.
Correct.
Not a diplomatic leader at all.
No.
Seth Wilson says, you mentioned a while that mainlanders can't move to Taiwan. Why is that? I've heard of Taiwanese living on the mainland. It's not reciprocal.
Yeah.
You have to be married, I believe.
Yeah.
Lightseeker, WTF, YouTube didn't let me put Pooh's name in my previous super chat.
Oh, really?
Well, it worked here, so.
That's strange.
Foria says, Happy New Year from Ireland to ye and your families.
Thank you.
What do you think about the China-Russia relations at the moment? We spoke about that last time.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bad feeling that they may be in an agreement to start a war in Taiwan and Ukraine at the same time. I don't think so. I don't think it's mutually beneficial, more than a very quick propaganda stunt. I think that you'll see a lot of Russia and China best friends forever propaganda, but nothing actually legally binding.
Right.
And Jerry Huang will do one more. Happy New Year from Australia at 9 a.m. The Ghoulie sisters have been inactive on their Chinese social media for over a month, while 2 months on YouTube and Instagram. I wonder what happened to them. Jerry, good update for you. We looked.
Yeah.
Sabina, the fake Uyghur girl.
Yeah, the Han Chinese looking one.
Thanks to you, people like you, Jerry, and people like us that did some investigative journalism on this disinformation campaign to say there's no genocide in Xinjiang.
Yeah.
We've noticed that she's gone.
Yeah, well, completely disappeared from the social media of that whole Ghoulie sisters.
Yeah,
thing.
Sabina, the Han-looking one. She's not even on the Chinese one, and they've rebranded even the logo.
Yeah.
To include a Tibetan girl and the Xinjiang girl.
Yeah, the original Xinjiang girl that started it all. So
they
I think
took her out of that.
I think we kind of kiboshed that one. I think we got rid of it before it even started. We nipped it in the bud.
Yeah, so she's gone.
Yeah.
And they're not even posting anymore.
That's great. Anyway, Wumao Corner.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've got something very scary for you guys here. And I mean scary as in it's about time you see this kind of thing in action, because we've talked about this a lot.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Okay, we have talked about this.
It's rare that it gets captured on film.
Yes, and now it is on film. So let's just play it out, and then we're going to discuss it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll take us out of the picture, and let's just hit it.
我问你啊，等一下，我问你，那个推特号的这个news of China 可是你的？
不是啊。
啊？
嗯？
不是你的？
不是啊。
那个推特号可是你的？
什么？推特？
这个推特号是不是你的？
我就是没有听说过这个号，从来没听说过。
今天我找你父亲过来的，我们跟你父亲平时也保持沟通，你可以对我跟你通话这个过程进行录音录像，没问题，好吧？但是我明天我就告诉你一声，我在找你父亲，啊，好吧？你可以录音录像，我明天告诉你。
哎。
而且你现在我跟你讲，你那个推特发的那些东西是绝对不可以的。你回国之后马上来找我们。
什么事吗？有什么事吗？
回国什么时候回来？
啊？那我不知道。
签证是到什么时候？不知道是吧？
对啊，签证快。
跟你父亲再聊聊。
签证快到期了吧？
我马上跟你父亲再聊，就这样吧。
嗯。爸爸。不是你这找我又找你来什么事啊？
没什么事。
啊？不是，那这次找你来干嘛呢？我又说了那个号不是我的。
好，再见吧。
Yeah, now that's terrifying. That's just terrifying.
Put it on a good freeze frame for that.
Yeah, I'll get it up there.
Yeah, it's fine.
So for those of you who don't know what's going on, I believe this woman is in Australia, a student in Australia, and the police in China dragged her father to the police station, then got her father to call her.
The very, very important thing is she's not in China.
Yes.
Of course, this would happen in China.
Yeah.
Right.
She's not in China.
Yeah.
And the reason that they are called her is that they are not happy with something that she posted on Twitter. Okay. Now, do you understand that? You're abroad, you're in Australia or Canada or America, and you get a Twitter account and you leave a post that's maybe about freedom or about democracy or something, making fun of the Chinese government or whatever the case may be. And so the Chinese police go to your parents' house, take your father away, so in other words, pretty much arrest him, take him down to the local police station, force him to call you, and then say to you, what you're posting on Twitter is not okay. I have your father here, and when are you coming back? When is your visa expired? When will you be back? Because you must come to us immediately. Do you understand this level of coercion that's going on? This absolute mafia bullshit that the Chinese government does. Why is it that people cannot see how bad this is? You know, how coercive the Chinese government is. It won't leave its own citizens alone abroad. It won't stop reaching out and using intimidation tactics.
So when you're in America, right? Let's use an American as an example. Let's say you're a Chinese student from China.
Yeah.
You have all of your amendments here in America. When you're on American soil, you can behave as an American and you have your freedom of speech protected by law, right?
Yeah.
But you understand why so many Chinese people don't speak out.
Yes.
And that's because they follow you. So what they're doing is actually breaking international law in a way by saying that you are responsible for everything you do in that foreign country here in China, right? Yeah. So when you come back, we're going to arrest you.
Yeah.
We're literally holding your dad hostage now.
Yes.
Because of a tweet you made.
Yeah.
And I can't overstate this enough. You have to understand, Chinese people, the reason that a lot of them can't do anything or speak out, we speak to them every single day, people that thank us for what we do, is because their families are held hostage.
Yeah.
And it's awful. It's so scary.
Yeah, it is. It really, really riles me up. And you know what really happened here is it was probably some piece of shit nationalist fellow student of her that ratted her out anyway.
This is usually what happens.
You know, or the Chinese Students and Scholars Association, which is on campus, or the Confucius Institute, or any number of bloody Chinese Communist Party mole organizations that you'll find on the campuses of universities around the world. The fact that the rest of the world tolerates this kind of espionage, this kind of thuggery, really makes me mad. These organizations, these Chinese government organizations that are present on our campuses, in our schools, in our governments everywhere, need to be booted out.
Yes. They're making their own citizens their lives a living hell when they're abroad.
And remember the last time we asked you guys to sign a petition. Maybe you can find that petition quickly. Let's see how it's doing. What happened with the Purdue University? This is the same thing that's happening here, right? We need the people that are ratting out to the government, their fellow students abroad, those people need to get sent back. They need to be kicked out, you know?
Yeah, we're at 22,000 signatures.
We've got 22,000 signatures. Let's put that again in the chat and in the description. Go sign this petition if you haven't, by the way. We're putting it in the description here. This is super important. If we can set a few examples to show that, you know, this kind of intimidation, this spying, this getting people in trouble with the Chinese government just because they want to speak their mind, you know, post a tweet on Twitter, is not okay. It shouldn't be tolerated.
If you, like this girl that now has to talk to the police and will get arrested when she comes
home. And now after
home.
Releasing this video, she's now going to be in
but
even worse
such
trouble.
Balls, seriously, to do this, and I thank her for this.
Yeah, absolutely.
the thing is with this, the students that ratted her out are sick. They're demons. They're evil. And they're doing no one a favor. They're only driving a further wedge between China and the West. Because what you're doing is you're making it unsafe for your own citizens to be abroad and make that bridge. The people that ratted her out are not making a bridge between China and the West. In fact, they're the people that don't want to speak to foreigners. They don't want to deal with non-Chinese people. And when they see someone that is making a bridge or is trying to like use their freedom of speech and interact like in a Western way, a democratic way, I should say, they rat them out and they try to get them. They try to bring them down with them.
Yeah, they try to police other people's freedom of speech abroad.
That should not be allowed.
Censor them. No, it shouldn't. So I think this petition is a good start. And getting to know about this kind of thing is a good start. Also, if you ever have a position to question the, I don't know if you're in a university or even if you're a professional adult, but you deal with any kind of university or I don't know, educational body that has ties to Confucius Institutes or what are they calling it now, Chinese language and culture associations or whatever, look into it, make some waves, try to figure out what's going on there, because 9 times out of 10 it's just a way to police and censor the Chinese students abroad and also make sure that the universities and colleges or whatever toe the party line for the CCP.
This is totally unrelated. But you know what's fucked up?
What?
She's fucked. Like when she goes back to China, right?
Sure.
Especially after posting this video. This cop, this piece of shit, scumbag, that's threatening her, he can come to America and travel. He can and enjoy the freedom of speech. He can do all of those things. He can actually do that.
He can go for a tour.
He's not on a list right now. He can go on a tour in the White House. We literally saw a clip, Xinhua clip, Chinese state media. They're walking around the White House talking about how bad America is. In the White House.
In the White House,
Right? You can do that. And he can do that. But she's screwed. Her life is over if she goes back to China. We would be similar if we went back to China. So it's the hypocrisy is unbelievable. You know?
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's heartbreaking to see this in action. This is something that we know happens all the time, and it happens to Chinese people abroad. And that's why you don't see Chinese people abroad liking to get into conversations about politics or to discuss anything about the bad aspects of China.
Right.
All right, because think about it. Even the most well-meaning person, they just say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and guess what? This is what happens. Their family gets carted into the police station in China.
We know personally, by the way.
Yeah, we do. Something similar to this has happened to us personally and to people we know as well. So, you know, it's a terrible situation, and the rest of the world needs to see this, realize it's a thing, and not tolerate it, and also boycott the Beijing Olympics.
Somebody said he'll never be able to go to Australia. I see a lot of people saying that. They get mad because we keep saying Australia capitulates to China. Yeah, he will. He absolutely could go to Australia. What are you talking about?
Anytime he wants.
Don't pretend like you're going to be the Australian policeman that's going to stop him from coming in.
He'll go to Australia and he'll be able to buy up an Australian farm. In fact, he'll probably be able to bribe a politician there. You know what I mean? Freaking Australia loves that kind of thing. Seriously.
We know Australians don't, but a lot of
like the you know.
We know a lot of it has been.
He's going to go there and he's going to buy 5
He's going to do it because you said that.
In your neighborhood.
Yeah, because you
drive
said
up
that.
Your property prices so high that you'll never be able to afford it.
In fact,
with his corrupt money.
It's only going to be all Chinese police that move.
Yes, he's going to set up a Chinese police neighborhood. You know, that's not even a joke. The Chinese police go to South Africa to train, and you know they have like a Chinese police stations there. Not only that, the whole thing that's happening with the Solomon Islands, they're sending in riot gear, and they're sending in Chinese police to train, you know, the local police and stuff. I thought China said that they don't interfere with other people's internal affairs.
That's the quote, right?
Yeah, I guess they do actually.
Yeah,
a lot.
Interesting.
Actually, a very lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, hopefully by us talking about this, we got him on some watch list, so he can't do that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Not that he ever would anyway.
No, it's not going to happen, but it's just disgusting. Okay, also, I guess under Wumao Corner, that's international news.
No, that's world news.
It's world news, yeah. We got lots of world news coming up, so let's just do 2 or 3 super chats and we'll hit world
Justine
news.
says, Happy New Year to you and your family. Thank you very much. Paul Parker, thank you very much. Doc Slothington, old Doc here. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas and wishing you a Happy New Year. Here's to you keeping the CCP living in the fear in 2022.
Yeah, thank you. Are we going to?
We'll live in the fear.
They will. Crap, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Koala 1203 says, "Rip Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I wonder what South Africa would be like if he led the post-apartheid government instead of Mandela."
Yeah, exactly. I actually made a post about that. Desmond Tutu is kind of a role model of mine growing up. And if only he could have led South Africa instead of Mandela. He was always the one who had reason and wisdom and a lot of truth behind what he said. And when the ANC started to go the wrong way, he called them out, even though he was a big part of them, a huge part of bringing down the apartheid government. But something that Desmond Tutu actually said, and I posted it on Twitter, was, he actually boycotted the 2008 Beijing Olympics, by the way. He did, Desmond Tutu. And
that's right.
He said that if it wasn't for the rest of the world boycotting sports events in South Africa, putting financial sanctions and so on South Africa, that 100% he believes the apartheid government would still be sitting in Pretoria and running the country. And that is what brought the South African apartheid government down. And so we have to start to boycott sporting events in China, and we have to start doing some kind of sanctions and punishment for the bad behavior of what's going on, just because that is going to force change, What?
So I just saw a super chat that I want to read.
What's that?
Cedric Hachez with a very generous super chat.
Thank you.
Says, "Thanks for your fight for spreading the truth and uncovering the lies. Cross fingers for Winston. Maybe one day my right foot will be produced instead of my left foot."
Oh man.
The sequel.
Oh man, that'd be the worst thing in the world. Anyway, let's. We got another super chat, or we're gonna move on.
Okay. I'll do one more. Mimi Lee, thank you very much, and Anthony Saints. You guys are butthurt now. Hey, they are butthurt now, and all you guys have been doing. Let's keep on kicking the CCP where it counts.
Let's do it. All right, Worldview, where we talk about what's happening in the world, specifically with regards to China. It's kind of like what's new, but not. All right, so this pillar of shame has been a mainstay in the biggest Hong Kong university for, I think, since 1990 or something. Is it?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Can you find that out? I don't want to misquote. But basically what this is it was a sculpture to commemorate the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Yeah, it was made by that Danish good artist.
Yeah. When was it?
I'm checking.
Okay, you'll figure that out.
About 20 years.
Yeah. So anyway.
Since 1996.
1996.
From Jens Galschiot.
So this has been a mainstay. Mm-hmm. Now, the insecure Chinese government has been going around and basically getting rid of freedom of speech in Hong Kong. As we know, they cannot abide by their agreement of leaving Hong Kong alone for 50 years.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. It should be one country, two systems. But they're quashing freedom of speech. They got that national security law. And what they're doing is removing anything that's critical of the Chinese government.
Yeah.
So a sculpture to commemorate the victims.
It's a bunch of dead bodies as a sculpture.
Yeah, the victims of the Tiananmen Square massacre has now been removed.
Yes.
Okay, and so has every other little goddess of democracy statue or whatever that was around on campuses and things like that. So they came in.
Hong Kong is guaranteed freedom of speech in the Constitution.
Yeah, you're absolutely guaranteed. You should be able to do this. You should be able to have this.
I personally know now reporters that have left Hong Kong now. They have no choice. They're screwed. Literally, the national Beijing government was tracking them in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen before.
No. And I mean, like, for instance, we can't go back to Hong Kong.
No, that was our refuge. Like, when I escaped China, that was my refuge. It would it'd be just as bad as being in mainland for us now.
Yeah.
If
we went through Hong Kong, we'd get nabbed.
Right. Even if we landed on
So
don't want to give them any ideas.
So they
we're flying to Seattle or something. We got to reroute in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's like, oh no. Yeah.
Anyway.
So they came in the dead of night and packed this statue away, put it in a storage container, and took it away.
So I have a little thing to say about that. It's like, I get what Beijing's trying to do. Like what they did with the whole protesting, when you had the majority of the entire country support Hong Kong democracy going against Beijing and going in the streets, millions of people, biggest protests I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Millions of people going out in the streets. You've had people abroad flying in to show their solidarity, friends we had.
Yeah.
That was such a slap in the face to Beijing because they're like, holy shit. They have been telling their citizens all this time that, oh, Hong Kong's so happy to be part of China again, after the 1997 handover. Screw the rest of the world, CIA operative trying to make it separate from China, all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then what actually happens is they say, well, it's not really a CIA operative when 2 million people go out in the street, right?
Yeah.
So they go out there and they bus in their own protesters from China to be like, wave Chinese flags and be like, oh, we hate Hong Kong democracy. We love Beijing. And then they would throw their flags in the garbage at the end of the day. I know, isn't it funny? The nationalist people.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, big slap in the face. So what they did was they shut it down.
Yeah.
Immediately wiped it out. They said no, and they instituted the national security law.
They've just arrested Denise Ho and the other pro-democracy activists.
They're left and right falling to the national security law, which they promised not to enact unless it was an actual national security issue.
See how it's a slippery slope? And the people who are supporting it saying like, no, it's just there to stop violent protesters and things like that.
Or like armed rebellions.
Yeah, but no, it's being used exactly like we said they were going to use it. If they don't like someone, if they don't want someone's freedom of speech, I wish
someone should timestamp us when we first brought this up, because you had Western people like the shills that were going and shitting on the Hong Kong protesters by saying, well, screw that. Of course they need a national security law. Who else is going to defend their national interests, right? Like, what if a foreign actor comes in and tries to actually armed takeover?
Sure.
No. What we knew was going to happen is that the Hong Kong people, or anyone in Hong Kong, if they say something against Beijing, are going to get arrested. And people were like, no, you guys are tinfoil hat. Look at what's happening right now. Hong Kong is effectively a Chinese province at this point.
Yeah.
Full on. Like, full stop. So my point was, if they had these statues, right?
Yeah.
If they just leave it alone, dude.
Sure.
Like, if Beijing just left that alone, it wouldn't be international news.
No.
And I don't think anyone's going to walk up to that statue. A mainlander's not going to walk up to that statue and go, I never thought about it like that. Now I'm against Beijing, right? That's not the actual fear here. They're flexing their power. They're doing this on purpose to say, you Hong Kong people are fucked. You can't do anything. You can't have a statue even.
They can't have that vigil for the
no vigil.
It's been happening every year since 1990.
Yeah. Everyone comes out in solidarity, has a candle. They remember the Tiananmen Square massacre victims.
Yeah.
That's illegal now. You go to jail under the national security law if you go to that vigil or organize
if you try to organize a gathering, you go to jail.
Right.
I mean, this is what's been happening to
where you
people.
sing songs.
Yeah.
That's a national security law. So all the shills, all the people out there that I don't want to name them.
No, scumbags.
Fucking hate them.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, all those people that were dehumanizing the Hong Kong protesters and supporting the national security law, what you're doing, and I don't want to do this paint everyone with the same brush thing, but what you've done by supporting that law and trying to talk down and trying to convince people that it's a good thing is that you don't think that Hong Kongers should be able to have a statue or sing songs with a candle to remember dead people that got mowed over by tanks.
Yeah, correct.
Pro-democracy people. That's what you believe in.
Yeah.
So that's the actual culmination. Again, we are proven right. The CCP's actions are very predictable for someone that's lived in China like us for over 10 years. We always can see what they're doing, what they're planning, and it's never a good thing.
Yeah.
I want to sum this up by saying, if you let them have this statue, you could have avoided this. But what I think has happened now is they've bit the bullet. They knew it was going to be bad international press, and the CCP already knows the rest of the world hates them.
Yeah.
So rather get rid of it now, and then later, it's deleted in the annals of history. No one in Hong Kong in 20, 30 years will be talking about Tiananmen.
Yeah, and speaking of the whole Tiananmen thing, I don't know if you guys caught the 60 minutes of Badiucao. Maybe you can put that in the description as well. Definitely worth a watch. And what really struck me about that is, if you don't know who Badiucao is, he's an artist, dissident who lives in Australia. He's Chinese, he's from Shanghai, and he certainly looks like an artist, I'll tell you that much. Great guy, does some amazing art that's very, very poignant. And we've used his art before for some of our thumbnails and in some of our shows, and, we speak to him. He's a fantastic guy. But he was a law student in Shanghai, most sophisticated city in China. And he only found out about the Tiananmen Square in his mid-20s, okay? And it was something he didn't know about, being a law student. So somebody who's well-educated in a very sophisticated part of China didn't know it existed until he was watching a documentary, and apparently some dissident had slipped footage of the Tiananmen Square massacre, that whole thing, into that documentary where it shouldn't have been. And that's how he found out about it. He became now one of the strongest and biggest voices against Beijing, especially with the 2022 Beijing Olympics and stuff. But what was mind-blowing to me was the fact that they've managed to sweep the Tiananmen Square massacre under the rug so much that a well-educated law student in his 20s didn't know about it. Okay? So that means your average everyday person and a peasant and a normal person and an average, like middle class, definitely won't know about it either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
It's-
for sure. I have a lot of stories, but I don't want to dwell
Yeah.
on this.
No, I mean, the fact that they managed to sweep it under the rug so much that
Yeah.
people don't know about it at all.
that's a good, really
It's a
good
crazy
point. That's a
thing.
really good point.
You know, so that's why
You'd
you should
think,
watch that.
you'd think.
You would think that at least people would know about it, maybe be fed some bullshit about it not being the government's fault. Or I've heard that side of the story where they say, oh, the protesters were attacking and killing people and breaking everything, so they had to be shot, you know?
Right.
I've heard that side of the story,
I have.
which is bullshit, but whatever. Yeah, let's move on, shall we? So what's going on with these red lines? What is this that you've got up here?
I just wanted, I mean, I always like to remind people that the Chinese government's constantly saying that they are the benevolent, peace-loving government, and all these other countries are being unfair and bullying China all the time.
Yeah.
And you just got to look at a couple of headlines from very recent past to just
Right.
understand what hypocrisy that is. I've not seen headlines in America or in other countries that say we need to bomb China.
Yeah.
We are going to respond with deadly force if you keep fucking around China. I have not seen that in Western
I haven't seen
media.
that, no.
But we do see China threatens to sweep Lithuania into the garbage bin of history. Okay. That's what China said. That's
They said,
foreign
the foreign
spokesman.
spokesperson actually said that.
They said they will be swept into the garbage bin of history.
Yeah.
They said they threatened Australia with a missile attack. They issue new threats to Taiwan. The island's military won't stand a chance, which they constantly do, and they're constantly scrambling jets. And China threatens Japan with nuclear war over intervention in Taiwan. These are all very recent things.
Yeah, very recent, yeah.
So,
Very
just wanted to,
belligerent.
I just wanted to remind people of the actual nature
Yeah.
of China. It's very hypocritical.
Oh, absolutely. We'll just keep seeing this kind of threat come out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is huge news, okay? There's a massive patriotic drive in China right now to cancel your Sam's Club membership. Now, it's kind of weird, but Sam's Club has a presence in China.
It does.
And there used to be one right near where I used to live.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's kind of rare. It's not like you get it everywhere. It's only in like the big first-tier cities and stuff is where you'll find Sam's Club. It's kind of like a posh thing. You know what I mean? It's rich people go there.
It's such the
I know,
opposite
but it's
here.
weird. You
No,
have to
I
have
know.
you have to
I
have
remember.
a pretty expensive membership card to go there, and they sell very good quality imported goods. You know,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. A lot of the rich middle class people.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a rich thing.
It's a rich
Yeah.
thing. It's not like you can't just walk in there and buy.
You don't
stuff.
make 2,000 RMB a month and go buy
No.
a shop at Sam's Club.
No, you have to be at least upper middle class.
Yeah, correct.
To have a thing. But now, because Sam's Club has apparently what they said they're not going to sell anything from Xinjiang, you know, because of forced labor. So they've stopped selling Xinjiang goods.
Sorry, we have some Europeans in here that don't know what Sam's Club is Walmart's Costco. You know what Costco is?
They don't know what that is either.
Okay, Costco is like a bulk place, a big warehouse.
Yeah.
You go in there, you have a membership card, and you can buy things in bulk. They definitely there's Costco abroad.
You think? Oh, maybe.
There is,
I
there
know.
is.
I know. In South Africa, we got Macro, which is a similar thing. So basically, you have a
It's
membership card.
Walmart's Costco.
Yeah, so you go in there and you can buy like a big bag of cashew nuts, for
Yes.
instance,
Or toilet
whatever.
paper,
You know,
yeah.
like a big thing. It's all about bulk, but they actually have in the Sam's Club. They've got a pretty good place where you can buy like ready cooked chicken and stuff like that, just like in Costco.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And in fact, that was where at the end days before I left China, that's the only place that I could get my turkeys. They would make a turkey around Christmas time. You could order a turkey, and you could go get it there. It was tiny and it was dry and it was
it was
crap.
$100-something.
Yes, it was really expensive, but it beat the times I had to smuggle turkey in from Hong Kong. Remember how stressful that was because of avian flu?
Smuggled the turkey. I
I
remember.
smuggled turkey 3 times.
3 times.
Three times
Could have
from
gone
Hong
to
Kong.
jail for that.
Had
dude.
to go to Hong Kong to buy a turkey, and they made it at wherever and be
The
cooked.
avian flu law was crazy.
It's crazy, and I bring it back in. Anyway, the fact of the matter is,
You're not going to get avian flu from a cooked turkey.
no,
But they didn't know any better.
whatever. The thing is, Sam's Club is a big bulk. You go buy your
Yeah.
stuff there. So, because they've now made a pledge to not sell goods that could potentially come from Xinjiang forced labor,
Yes.
now you've got this nationalist patriotic drive, and I can't remember the slogan now, but it goes something along the lines of support your country, cancel your Sam's Club membership. And so people are in droves going out there and canceling their membership to Sam's Club to punish them.
Not without asking for a refund. by
Oh,
the way.
no, they're asking for a refund, of course.
Yes, it's not there.
They're so they're going out there and basically canceling because they want to be patriotic, and they obviously don't care about Xinjiang Uyghurs and the plight of them. You know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I actually again spoke to some of my Chinese friends about this, and they're like, prove to me something's going on in Xinjiang. I'm like, for fuck's sake, even if there's the slightest possibility that there's something going on there, you have to understand that there are ethical repercussions.
But there's a lot of proof.
Obviously, there's a lot of proof. You
tons
show
of
them proof, and they're like, that just looks like a jail to me. It could be a jail for anything.
Well, it's because it's inconvenient to admit it.
Yeah.
And they don't want to admit it.
And then you show them the Uyghur prisoners and stuff, and they're like, yeah, they probably did something bad.
Or the Uyghurs the few that managed to escape, and then their family disappears in China. They can prove it.
And then they say, oh, they just want asylum, so they make the story up.
Right.
You know, that kind of shit.
Even though their family disappeared.
Makes me fucking mad. Like, I'm sorry to say, but like when you've got so much evidence of at least something going on.
I know you can't. There's no 2022. Hopefully, there's no room for people that question the Uyghur genocide.
Yeah,
that's got to be cringe lord territory.
Yeah,
we need to make it uncool to question genocide, guys.
Yeah.
Because it's not it's in the beginning, okay, maybe you can say, okay, let's dig into this.
Yeah.
But you can't refuse delegations over and over again.
And now there's been a Uyghur tribunal.
Now there's tribunals with witnesses.
We've got boycotts of the Beijing Olympics because of this.
We got video evidence of the camps, satellite imagery.
Yeah.
We have eyewitness testimonies. We have governments being refused to have delegations to go look. UN Human Rights Council. No one's allowed to go see it.
Yes.
You have rogue journalists that have to sneak in and they get booted out or have to disappear somewhere.
Yeah.
So what do you think's going on?
The thing is, okay, once again, like I said, even if there's just a possibility, if there are rumors that something's
if you just play devil's advocate.
Yeah, so there's rumors something bad's going on. A big corporation should have an ethical, responsibility to at least say, until we're proven otherwise, we're going to have to just not sell things that are possibly coming from slave fucking labor. Okay? Yes. But you know what happens in China? We should have
to say this.
In China, though, if you say that, like, listen, guys, we love you, China, yeah. We're bowing down to you, but you have to understand that we don't know what's going on in Xinjiang there.
This is too much.
Yeah, so we're just going to have to say that we can't sell products from that region for now. Right. We'll support you every other way.
We're so sorry otherwise.
Yeah, but you know what? We're still going to not pull out or do anything like that. And then China basically riles up the people to say, if you're patriotic, you will cancel your Sam's Club membership. That's what you got to do. And China bites them in the ass and goes after them like that. What do you do in that situation? You know what you do? Stick to your guns and pull out of the China market if you have to. Yeah. But stop capitulating, because you cannot be, as a person, as an individual, as a corporation, you cannot be complicit in this stuff.
I hate to be cancel culture boy, but you probably shouldn't be on the side of genocide denial.
Yeah.
And then
don't be intel.
Don't be intel, because it's not going to look good when eventually something does come, like a massive thing comes out.
It already has.
No, it already has. But imagine there was like an armed conflict or something, right? And then all of a sudden that region somehow, there's access to it. Do you imagine the stories and stuff that will come out of that? Sure. You're going to look like an absolute piece of shit. Yeah. In fact, you probably won't be hireable in the future if you were online making videos about how there's no genocide there, right?
Yeah.
Let's hopefully we're going the right direction here.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, so just so you know, this is a big nationalist drive now being riled up by the government. It's making huge news. The reason I know about this is that every Chinese person that I speak to has mentioned this in the past couple of days.
Yes, it's definitely huge in China.
So you see what they do is the government themselves aren't going out there and saying, like, cancel your membership. But what they do is they allow the news to spread, and they allow these ideas to spread.
You have proof behind you.
Yeah.
What is this publication?
This is the Global Times.
It's state media.
Of course. State media is putting it out there, boosting it. Everybody else takes part in it. It gets boosted everywhere, and it's allowed to be told. Whereas any other kind of news that they don't want is completely hushed, not allowed to be spoken about. If there's anything bad about the Chinese government, completely hushed, and you won't see it.
Well said.
But they freaking put this on loudspeaker, so everybody goes out there and says, yes, I'll do my patriotic duty, and I will support genocide and cancel my membership. Right. Anyway, just so you know, that's what's going on there.
Good call.
Yeah, we've got something else we're going to have to cover.
4,500 concurrent viewers, guys. Welcome. I didn't know so many people would be in today.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, guys.
We really appreciate it, guys.
They've never had this many people.
It's fantastic to have you here during this very special, New Year's edition. By the way,
you don't. 不用说.
I got to talk about Apache.
Okay.
All right.
I thought you were going to say something else. So.
No, I'm not. Okay. I don't. What am I supposed to say? Anyway. Yeah, I know. I will. The Apache is something near and dear to my heart, believe it or not, because I have an IT background. Okay. Now, anyone who knows anything about the internet and about web servers and about anything to do with hosting websites and so on and so forth will know that Apache is what a lot of the world runs on when it comes to the internet.
Yeah.
In
correct.
fact, you watching Netflix on your TV, you know, using a smart TV or using your computer and your browser, and anything to do with the internet is probably somehow linked to Apache.
Yeah.
Okay? What it is it's open source.
Right.
Okay? So what happens is if you're running a service on the internet and you're hosting some kind of website or you're dealing with a database or whatever, I'm not going to get into the boring technical stuff, but if you discover a bug, okay, something's not working correctly, what you do is you fix the bug, and you can see some of the geniuses behind here who are part of the whole Apache Foundation who submit, but because it's open source, everybody is a part of Apache if you're smart. Okay, and if you have a greasy ponytail and are a Linux person, okay, then you're definitely part of the Apache group. The fact of the matter is, you submit your bug and they fix it. And that's why it's such a fantastic thing, because there's no company or no government that controls Apache. It's a big open source project that the internet runs on and keeps getting improved all the time. And it's improved for free because it's people who use it and find something's wrong with it. They will submit the bug fix. It gets fixed for everyone. And that's what makes Apache great. Now that we know what Apache is all about, you know Alibaba, right? Big e-commerce.
Alibaba and the IP thieves.
Yeah, Alibaba and the IP thieves. Massive, big e-commerce thing out of China.
It's kind of like a website. I know everyone knows, but just in case, it's a website where you can go get wholesale stuff from China directly from a factory, basically.
Yeah.
And then have it shipped abroad.
Yeah.
Very unreliable, by the way.
Sure.
A lot of people don't get their stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
Quality
the fact of the
control.
matter is, Alibaba discovered a Log4j exploit, a bug. Now, this Log4j exploit doesn't only affect Apache, it affects Linux systems, okay? And it's an exploit that can be used to basically take control of a Linux system, okay? And exploit it. It's very bad. It's a very bad thing. So if there was a bad actor, he could use it then to, I don't know, steal data, for instance, or whatever the case. Okay, do something really bad with this exploit. And I'm not talking script kiddie stuff here. I'm talking about the real deal. It's really bad. And so many systems around the world use this and rely on the system, the Linux system. So what does Alibaba do? They discover this bug.
Yeah, this Log4j bug.
Yeah. And what they did was, did they do the right thing? Yes, they did the right thing. They immediately reported it to the Apache Foundation to be patched and fixed.
Well, props to Alibaba for that.
But guess what? They got punished by the Chinese government for doing that. Heavily punished.
Of course they did.
The Chinese government, what? What did they do to them? I think we've got
it says the Ministry of Industry. China's industry ministry pulls support from Alibaba Cloud for not reporting the flaw to the government first. The Ministry of Industry and Information Technology said it will suspend work with the Alibaba Cloud as a cybersecurity threat intelligence partner for 6 months. So basically, they're blocking them for 6 months.
Yeah.
Notifying vendors about security flaws is a cybersecurity industry norm, but a new law encourages Chinese companies to first notify the government.
And you know why?
Why would you want to do that?
Because the government is so pissed off at them for notifying them about this flaw, because they wanted to use the flaw to steal and plunder and do whatever the hell. They wanted to go out there and use this. It was like, perfect. They were like, what? We had this in our lab. We could have gone out and shut down systems abroad. We could have captured data. We could have done all of this. And you told them about it? You bastards. We're going to cut you off right now. So they're punishing the shit out of Alibaba for doing the right thing.
That's absolutely hilarious, though. It's so transparent. You know, I was surprised that China actually put that as front page news. I guess it was in order to warn other people.
Yeah, don't you dare ever tell anyone about
Don't do the right thing.
No, you don't. The thing that the Chinese government honestly and obviously doesn't understand that is to be part of an open source system like Apache, it's give and take. You're using something for free. Alibaba runs all their stuff off this, and it's free to them, and it would cost them billions of dollars if they were to pay for something like this. You use it for free, but the price of entry is that you help out and you fix problems.
Yeah,
if you discover them.
That's kind of like a bro code. It's like something you do, right?
Yeah,
it's
of course.
unspoken rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Chinese government's like, no. You find an exploit like that, we get to know about it first.
Right.
Just so that's the whole thing with Apache.
Yeah.
But it gives you a very good insight into the mindset of the Chinese government. They are there to attack and to steal and to create chaos whenever they're given the opportunity. And they will do it underhandedly.
For sure.
And that's the problem. That's how they infiltrate the universities overseas with the Confucius Institutes and the Chinese Students and Scholars Association. They bribe politicians and they will steal the military secrets wherever they can to build their military hardware because they're just incapable of creating their own stuff properly, apparently. And this was such a great opportunity for them and they missed it.
I like how there's no incentive for reporting it to the government first. They're not going to give you money.
No, but you know...
But you get punished.
No, that's the incentive. The incentive is that if you don't
It's
report it to
coercion.
the government first, they will kick your ass.
It's unbelievable. Oh, it's very believable.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on?
I would like to move on.
Mr. A.M. Paula says, we don't have to be small anymore.
No, we can... I was just admiring Ruth's hairstyle.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, let's continue.
Mr. M. Paula says, Happy New Year from Finland. Keep being awesome. Kiitos. Ellie Munoz says, what are your thoughts on the Xi'an lockdown? City of 13 million are reporting, many reporting no food. We covered that.
We just covered that,
just
yeah,
joking.
right.
You did that early.
By the way, you say move on. We should move on to the Yamcha segment.
Oh, yeah, we're in there now.
Yeah,
okay,
we just
cool.
finished it.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
before we continue, guys, it's time for Yamcha. And for those of you who don't know what Yamcha is, that's the time we get to hang out, kind of have a conversation. We're going to answer your super chats and just relax. It is New Year's Eve after all, so let's try to have a good one.
But
what?
this will only be up for 2 days. So congrats to the people that are here live now.
If you're here live, you get to enjoy this. If you watch this tomorrow, the next day, you get to enjoy it too. But Monday is where we cut it out of the show and we'll upload it for patrons only. So it's always going to be available. But
Sure.
Anyway.
Okay, so he said, are they making chips for Samsung and Micron? Supply shock coming?
What's that?
Xi'an, apparently.
I don't know.
Kathleen Morrison, is it true that factories are going to be closed for a month so there will be no smog for the Olympics? Happy New Year's. Absolutely, they do
Yes,
that all the time.
they do crazy things to try and bring down the pollution. And you know what? It sucks because that's when people in Beijing get to see what it could really be like to live in Beijing if there wasn't pollution. But it's just a sad reality that people have to live with, is that it's gross and polluted in winter.
Unless there's an international competition.
Yeah, whenever there's something big like the international eyes are going to be on Beijing, then they had a special name for it.